All right, guys. Regional time of day. Oh, wait. No. Good morning, good evening, good night. I'm just kidding. What's going on, guys? Layer1Live. Today, we're bringing you the latest from around the cryptocurrency industry. Man, these have been getting fun, and it's all because I've got my main man, Dima, here. I've got you guys in the chat. Let's get after it today. What's going on, man?
Yeah, man, super excited for today's episode. Obviously, we always talk about how, crypto basically has no lack of news. And every week, we have so many news that come through. And then when we go through it and put this together for this episode on every Monday, it seems like when we look back, it's like, man, it's been like ages when this happened, but really it happened like just last week. So obviously, a lot of things to discuss today on this Monday. So hopefully everybody's doing well. I'm super excited and pumped to roll. As you can see, I'm in my new office today.
Yeah, Dima's rolling in the old ICO alert office. It looks like a corner office there, man. You're doing well for yourself.
Yeah, man, I'm moving up the ranks here.
Awesome. Well, let's get to some of these guys in the chat. Obviously, the lads have been killing it. We're moving to Discord, which we'll get to here in a second. We need to make sure every single person is in Discord. That's going to be the community home. That's going to be Lads City, and you guys will see that being kind of built out over the time here. So, guys, this is the situation. We've got Scott in the chat. He says, I'll be back. He's going to be first. Kieran's in the chat saying, sir, the OG. We've got Brandon, Phasia, Asmodi, Bruno, Shun is in the chat. Loadmaster is in the chat. And we've got Paul Young and Rustin that have filled out up until now. So we appreciate you guys showing up early for us. We've got a long episode, a packed episode in front of us. So we cannot wait to get this started. It's always better when you guys are here. So thank you so much for showing up. We have a ton of lads news, but I wanna get to kind of how you think the upcoming week's gonna treat you. I know Bitcoin's sitting at around. What's Bitcoin sitting at right now?
11.7K.
Yeah.
I saw this morning. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was interesting. We were talking about it on desk how we've been outside of that range of 11.5, but we haven't really broke through it that much. So, and it seems like it's kind of materializing here a little bit. It seems like it's trying to push that narrative of BTC to go to 12K next. We'll see what's going to happen. We obviously have news that we're going to cover where you have interesting players that are disclosing that they've got into Bitcoin or they've been, getting into Bitcoin and building all these things from the traditional institutional side, which is, more narrative like that is definitely going to be bullish for BTC. And we obviously have, the macroeconomics that's going on with the elections, and the stimulus talks. We had, the Fed, one of the chairmans, actually one of the Fed members, I think was scheduled to talk today. I didn't catch that speech, but they were going to talk about a little bit about the stimulus and all that stuff. So yeah, crypto is doing well.
Yeah, it seems like every day one of these bigger companies, bigger firms are saying, hey, we put 100 mil, we put 50 mil, we put 1% of our assets into BTC. Yeah, one of the questions I had to you early on when we kind of were just sitting down for the pre-production meeting was, like, what does this do for the rest of altcoins? We'll have this discussion later, but it is interesting to see so many big firms getting into crypto and having, their assets there, regardless if that's 1%, 2%, 5%. I think it's a start, just like Kane said. So take your shot, guys, if you're doing the shot for every time we mention Kane. But we got about 17 of you guys in the chat. As you guys know, you are earning LADs today by engaging in the content. I didn't do the LADs distribution last week. That's on me. I'm getting the LADs distribution out after this episode. So you guys are going to earn all in one chunk for last week. But you guys know you earn 2x if we do hit an all-time high. What's the all-time high, Dima?
52.
52. So we got 17 in the chat right now. We need to hit 53 by the end of the episode, and you guys will earn twice as many LADs that you would have earned if we didn't hit all-time highs. We got close last week. I think we hit like 46. So guys, pump those desktops up. Get your friends in here. Talk about LADs. I'm going to share it on my social as well here shortly. But we do, we have a larger layer one and like LADs section this week. So bear with us. But you will be getting that distribution next week. We had a token art vote that I'll post here after the episode. We have LAD of the week as Shifty and Stefan. So Shifty shared his artwork in his collaboration with Pranksy. in the chat. So that was really cool. I was able to purchase one of those. I think it was one of 10 or one of 20. So shout out to Shifty there. And do you want to give a quick shout out to Stefan?
Yeah. Stefan, has been engaged more in our community since, we brought him in. He actually joined Layer One some time ago, but he's, been busy with doing stuff on his end. And this lad is coming from Australia. He's involved in many different areas of crypto. And we had an interesting talk with him, a couple of days back about certain things that he's working on as far as the research goes, and we will be deploying that within our channel on Discord, so you guys will get access to some of the research that Stefan is going to be putting out, which is I'm super excited for that to see his insights and stuff that he's going to be doing. So I don't want to reveal it too much, but there's something coming, guys.
Yeah, guys, we're moving to Discord, and we've seen some guys kind of hold up the flag basically and take up that flag and kind of run with different projects, which is exactly what we want at Layer 1 and at LADZ. We see kind of guys in the community say, hey, Alien Worlds is launching, so let me put together a channel for Alien Worlds and get everybody together so that we can take part in that project. That's exactly what the move to Discord is allowing us to do, and you guys, taking the flag there. So I do want to shout out to Loadmaster as well. He is our alpha of the week. He dropped some NFT drops in the past week, and he is also doing what Stefan is doing, although in another sector. So it's awesome that we can have all this coverage of the different sectors, and we have kind of captains that are kind of taking up the lead there on these different sectors, man. It's awesome. So if you want to get involved, get after it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have been great. The community has been great in reaching out and kind of asking how can we get involved more, and then providing their set of skills and doing like special stuff like deploying alpha to the channel, providing more information about certain sectors. And that's something that we're obviously going after actively, to be able to build out different resources for different sectors and not be focused on specifically just one sector, but have like kind of insight into different ones, to make sure that the people that come to us, they can go through those channels and get more information about what they want, what they're interested in. So
100%. So we've got a lot of good comments I'm going to get to. Kieran saying GG about the mass Telegram exodus that we're about to undertake. Bruno saying it looks like we're testing 12K again. We've got an RIP altcoins. RA's pumping the lads, asking about us when Binance. Can't answer that one yet. Kieran saying bear with us, bear market confirmed. And then Pickles in the chat saying he's the beta of the week.
No, man, not at all. I would disagree, but that's pretty funny comment.
Yeah, we've got, so Pickle, you don't have your roll wallet, so even if we did have a reward for beta of the week, we wouldn't be able to get you your lads, man. So get in roll, get in Discord, get your roll wallet set up, start earning some lads, man, because we got some big things coming there. Let me get to some of these stats and the schedule for the week, guys. So basically the top 5 countries from this past week were US, UK, Australia, Canada, Spain. Top 3 episodes were going to be that social token episode with Cooper Turley. That was a great one with Audius. The Animoca Brands episode, and then the meme episode is coming in at number 3. This week, we have a pretty standard week. We've got Dimitri's Desk tomorrow at the normal times, 5 p.m. Wednesday's going to be Stellar. We've been talking about this Stellar episode for 10 years, but we're going to get it out this Wednesday because we have no other choice in the matter. So we've got Thursday, NFT Live. Game night is going to be Thursday night as well. And then Friday is going to be Dimitri's Desk. Now, we did have that artist series that we launched yesterday that Ronan started. I believe we did it with Giant Swan, and his drops are actually happening tonight. So we partnered with Nifty Gateway to make sure that you guys were getting all this good insights on the NFT art industry and highlight all those artists that were, a part of those series. So that is happening. I believe Ronan just hit me up before the episode went live. That is happening at 8:30 on Sunday again. So that's going to be the situation there.
Gotcha. Yeah, and also I did release my sentiment analysis on Twitter, dropped it into Discord as well. I do these every Sunday as well, so that's part of the schedule where I kind of go over the market and different participants, how they're positioning themselves to kind of identify the sentiment in those sectors. So you guys, for those traders out there that want to follow, that information. You can find it in our Discord or on my Twitter, where I break down, and you guys can see how different players are positioning themselves ahead of a new trading week for Bitcoin and crypto in general.
Awesome, man. That's amazing. So we're trying to bring you the best every week. I think Dimitri's, again, working with Stefan to bring you some content as well that we can kind of push out to the community in text form. So we've been working hard. We appreciate you guys kind of supporting us on this journey and kind of taking part as well. That's the most important thing. So we're kind of coming up to the news part of this episode, the main part of the episode here. We did want to say, again, all-time high is 52. If we get 53, you guys earn 2 times the LADZ. I guess the only other thing that we had this week, Dimitri, that's going to be a big drop for the rest of the community. What's going on with the LADZ token, and what are we putting out this week?
What do you mean, like?
As far as like articles.
As far as the articles, so yeah, we're going to be putting together basically an updated utility and more kind of guidance in terms of the outlook for LADZ token, in terms of things that you'd be able to do. And some clarity about where the community kind of wants to take it in terms of possible exchanges and so on, right? So
amazing. So guys, basically what you're going to get on Wednesday from us is going to be essentially like version 1 of the light paper that is associated with Layer 1 and LADZ. So expect that on Wednesday. That's what we're launching. It's going to be amazing. That's kind of like the starting point for us as a community, as a platform, as a channel, as a series, as everything. Everything's starting kind of here on Wednesday with getting things rolling as far as the LADZ token's concerned. So again, couldn't be more excited for what we've got coming in October. And man, I'm just ready. So last thing, man, I'm headed to Pittsburgh on Friday.
Yeah, man. So Q is coming down to Dimitri's desk HQ. So we're going to be spending some time together. Obviously we kind of haven't seen each other besides Zoom in a while. So I'm going to be taking care of Q this weekend. So we're going to have a great time. We're going to talk, all stuff Layer 1, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, you guys should be able to hear me in the back of Dimitri's desk on Friday. That'll be the test. If I got to Pittsburgh, I'm in Dimitri's desk.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Well, that was the Layer 1. That was the LADZ portion of the episode. So we're trying to give you all the information from the past week, from this week, as far as Layer 1 and LADZ is concerned as we grow bigger. But now we're going to get, obviously, to the crypto and blockchain news from the week. So as always, guys, hit the like button. Let us know what we're doing here. Let us know what interests you, and then comment along on these stories. The episodes are always better with you guys interacting, and obviously you guys are earning LADZ for doing so. So without further ado, breaking news. What do we got, Demon? Let's hit it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hit it. So I got this first piece of breaking news. Basically, it revolves around the good old Jay Powell, right? The Federal Reserve Chairman. There was a snippet where basically he attended a meeting to discuss kind of global economics and so on, as they usually have that. And specifically, the subject came up about the digital currency, right? That's something that we've talked about in the past, where, you have China right now that's experimenting heavily with that, where they're giving out their citizen a certain region, a certain amount of digital that, they will basically gauge on how successful that's going to be. The question that came up about the what's called CBDC, the digital dollar, is that the Fed is actively examining it. Still, it's still in that research phase. They don't want to rush with it. They want to be clear that the digital currency, if it will be implemented, it will complement the existing fiat system, and it's not going to be a disruption. It's more of a complementary, setup, because right now, as we know, cross-border payments and settlements are, kind of inefficient, right? The way they are now. They've been in that way for a long time. And it's, first of all, it's very delayed. Second of all, it's expensive. And there's a lot of barriers there that are in place. And, they're still kind of cautious about it. They're still trying to explore this idea, and I think they're going to wait and see probably maybe some results from other countries and then make evaluations, and then they're going to come to this kind of decision very carefully, because you have to understand that US dollar is the global reserve currency, and it is so connected globally that releasing something like this, without really having it kind of set up 100%, and having issues, then that could be a very kind of big step back instead of a leap forward that many people are expecting. There's an interesting thing too, about, I was listening to a podcast and one of the economists was talking about also about this digital currency setup, where his thought about this is actually regions that are are seen to be struggling economically, or the regions that are going to approach, like, let's say, hyperinflation or some big economic issues, they actually want to move towards the digital currency as a local currency as fast as possible, because they're anticipating a change in overall monetary system in their countries. So, and that change and evolution of the overall monetary system, that will change because of the just economic struggle that happens there, and inflation and so on. Well, to kind of remedy that, they see that the digital dollar is kind of the way out as part of that change in the overall monetary solutions that are available. So that was very interesting. I think, in general, just the bottom line, the Fed is going to take it very slow. They acknowledge that there is something. They acknowledge that they're, studying it, maybe doing some small experiments and whatnot, but they're still kind of far away from, implementing it right now.
Yeah, I think some of this could be a response to what China's been doing, right? They were dropping, I believe, 50,000 of their CBDC to, I believe, the citizens in Shenzhen, which basically was like, I think we like calculated as like $30, but just as a trial run to see how that would work in a community, and seeing if they could get retail involved and other things involved to start accepting that currency. Man, as a U.S. citizen, it's kind of eerie to have these talks, right? Because a lot of it is about destabilizing what is actually happening in the world with that new monetary system. Like I think it's been so long that the U.S. dollar has been kind of the go-to for this, but changing the monetary system, play this out. Does this turn into like a world-backed like CDBC, like? Does it become basically where the world has this currency that they can all kind of interact with? The rails are there, right? It's like it kind of breaks down those government like walls. That's at least how I look at these digital currencies that are being kind of spun up by these different governments. I think eventually they will kind of coalesce into more or less what you've seen with maybe inside the EU.
Yeah, it's tough. I wouldn't say that it's a little bit of an extreme. I think the first rollout of it is going to be just like the Fed Powell explained, like in terms of complementing the existing structure, right?
Of course.
So all it's kind of doing is just reducing the cost and increasing the efficiency of transferring value in terms of cross-border payments. It's just kind of like the back-end structure of it, but the fiat system is going to still stay the same. And that's something that Jay Powell actually emphasized as well, because their whole concern is like, well, if there's going to be a digital currency CBDC, we want to make sure that the Fed has the same power in terms of controlling the interest rates, in terms of controlling the money supply and all that stuff, to make sure that during the times of recession, during economic slowdown and so on, right, they can easily use those same tools, but maybe more efficiently, right? Yep. So it's more of just like a perk, right, rather than kind of a strong change in terms of how fiat is perceived economically.
I think it is kind of like a step though, where if you do take that step, there's no turning back. Like once you do add this in, the it's like a gateway drug to what we'll see with a Libra coming out. Like I think people almost are becoming more acceptable, or they're accepting kind of the Libra setup. They're accepting the UBI setup. Pickles in the chat saying can't wait for more stimulus to buy more Bitcoin with. And to Dimitri's point, stimuluses would get become more efficient with this setup, because they would be able to digitally do this, as opposed to getting a mail letter from my man Trump, and just having all those inefficiencies that come with the standard setup. I want to get to one question though, and I appreciate this one from Fatface, which is interesting to say out loud. But what are the risks with stablecoins like USDC?
Yeah. So like, I mean, the main risk there is just the counterparty risk, right, of the entity that provides that product, right, which is essentially, Coinbase, and then you have Circle that's
Gemini.
yeah, Gemini and so on, right. So it's like the counterparty risk is pretty much what it is. It's you're trusting that entity to manage it, right, where you have $1 is one USDC. So when you have USDC, you're saying that, hey, that entity does hold that $1, and they're not using that dollar to do anything else besides like custody it or not,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they use a low risk kind of market neutral setup, right? So it's all about the counterparty risk, and that's been around for some time. And speaking of counterparty risk, we're going to get into OKEx a little bit later on, where we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, it's interesting that in crypto we have these discussions and debates all the time of not your keys, not your crypto. And USDC and some of these other stablecoins aren't that much different from your standard bank issuance. Like they have the ability to freeze your funds, just like you would have your bank account frozen from a traditional bank. Like I think the more interesting stuff comes when you can decentralize all of that and make sure that USDC isn't able to just freeze your funds for no reason. Because I guess my answer to that question, Fatface, would be I think that you're giving the entities even more control over your fiat than or more control of your assets than in the traditional fiat system, because cash is one of the like easiest means to kind of stay outside of the system, if you wanted to like put me in quotations.
Yeah, it's interesting because we haven't really seen freezes outside of the platform, meaning that there's actually a known issue like this, because if you KYC, let's say, and you acquire USDC through this entity, then it doesn't stop you from taking that USDC and sending some Ethereum wallet, right? You can just send it to a MetaMask, right? And that in between you, KYC customer, to the non-KYC Joe Schmo who's not known, there is nothing in between that stops you from doing that transaction. And once the Joe Schmo has that USDC, well, we haven't seen instances where they can actually go back and freeze the Joe Schmo stuff, right? So there's this issue that they're trying to resolve, to have the second layer, where there's no funny business going on there. If a KYC guy gets to transfer these funds to some random unknown wallet.
Interesting. So good combo. Appreciate the questions that are coming through. Stacy said he's pausing Bankless for this. So shout out to Stacy. We appreciate all you guys that showed up for that meme event, man. That was fun last week. We appreciated kind of showing up in the Discord and then kind of hopping into the meme event there. That was really a good time. I had a great time. So we're going to hit the rest of this breaking news, guys. But we appreciate you hopping along on this Monday. Hopefully you're having a good Monday. I guess based on we're about to get into some more regulatory issues with what the CFTC said about Ethereum. That was pretty big. I thought that was like a really kind of under the radar comment that was made by CFTC. I think Pomp was saying something about DeFi earlier today. It seems like for the Ethereum ecosystem and therefore the broader kind of cryptocurrency industry as a whole, I think it's starting to kind of move in that direction past just Bitcoin itself, and that happened relatively quickly, to be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy to notice. Some of these officials that hold these positions are coming out and saying, "Hey, listen, actually, super excited. Like, we're very supportive of this." Meanwhile, like everybody was thinking, like, are these guys like after us? Especially right now, given like where things are in terms of regulators and how they approach crypto, right? There's like this speculation that I've been, kind of thinking about with my tinfoil hat, in terms of like these traditional companies and institutions that are starting to get into like this DeFi trading and all that stuff for crypto, where they're starting to pressure existing players and kind of making a way for them, right? Making some room for them to get in and acquire those users, acquire those traders, which is very interesting. So I think there's like two sides of it, right? There's one that's like, yes, they feel like everything is great and they love the innovation of things, but they're also being very active in terms of, enforcing some of the behavior that's like, is not essentially standard in crypto as it's standard in the traditional finance, like KYC and all that stuff.
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of getting their head around what's happening in crypto a little bit more so than maybe even 2 or 3 years ago. So yeah, all good points. I think we had Scott come through with some breaking news about Atari. It looks like Atari is going to be moving to Wax, or it's going to be launching on Wax. Atari and Wax have teamed up to bring collectibles from the pop culture video game phenomenon to the blockchain. So that's good news for Wax. Obviously, Atari's kind of been in this NFT push for a little while. I think that's a smart move by them. I think they're getting kind of pushed out of and have been for years now, the regular gaming kind of industry there. So it's interesting to see them be on the fringes of kind of new tech there, at least in collectible assets. So really cool stuff. Guys, as we move along, we want to know what you think about what we're talking about. If you have another story that you want us to hit, please drop it in the chat. We'll definitely get to it. We'll touch on that Wax news at the end of the episode. Scott, if you can link the actual story there, I can definitely pop it up and pull it up on the screen as well. But we have Filecoin. Okay. Now, Filecoin's been around for a goddamn forever. It's been, they had that ICO, I believe, in 2017. They had a bunch of big backers. A lot of people had their funds locked up in this project. Finally launched, okay? Finally launched. Yeah, congrats to all the Filecoin holders that put money into that ICO. Finally launched, except that there are numerous problems about the project. No. Now, I'm going to get into this story. Dimitri's going to touch on a little bit of the kind of discrepancy in price along, I believe, at least 20 exchanges. But based on what this story is telling us, it looks like the way that the structure is set up. Now, Filecoin is basically a protocol for decentralized file storage, obviously Filecoin. But the file storage is obviously handled by decentralized servers. And basically what ended up happening was Filecoin miners are now on strike because the amount of Filecoin needed to actually boot up these mining rigs is an astronomical amount. Or at least it favors whales more than it does even guys who got set up for this, had the servers ready, had enough Filecoin, but apparently not enough, because apparently it was a lot. And the only way now to actually get the Filecoin, enough Filecoin to do it, at least one of the easiest ways, is to go onto exchanges and purchase it. But why would you want to go onto exchange and purchase Filecoin when a lot of the industry thinks that maybe there's a little bit of overvalued nature to what's happening with the token? You could end up completely wrecked just trying to get enough to actually start this mining process. So I don't know. You read the story, obviously. What did you make about this situation with the process they initially had set up for the miners?
Yeah, I mean, I just, before I get into that, I want to just shout out Ari. It's so funny how I didn't even realize this. If you take a look at the fully diluted valuation for Filecoin, that ends up to be 64 billion. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, what? What is going on there? But yeah, I mean, the drama with the miners, obviously is a big backslash, to their PR. It looks like they're trying to work things out at the moment, but from the exchange side of things, right? Well, first of all, yeah, you had the big ones that pulled out, right? Mm-hmm. From the mining side of things, and now they're trying to kind of remedy that by maybe do some updates and collaborate with them to bring them back and whatnot, contain this damage basically. But the thing that you referred to in terms of how, if you look at Filecoin and you see it on different exchanges trading at completely different prices, was pretty crazy, right? Considering how right now, if you look at the market, usually the arbitrage opportunities are pretty low because the market is kind of efficient in terms of automation and bots that isolate that. But, when you have an issue in terms of problems with withdrawals or transferring those Filecoins to a different place, that can slow down and have a market efficiency as far as the price goes in different exchanges. So you'll see you would see a crazy difference between different exchanges and the Filecoin itself.
I've got it pulled up.
Yeah, you have it pulled up here. Yeah, so it's it's insane, and it's crazy. It's because it's kind of like a closed loop, right, or within that exchange. Because since if you can't transfer the token out, you can't complete the arbitrage, and that's kind of it's very inefficient when it comes to the market structure. So they're struggling with that. They like you mentioned, the ICO happened 3 years ago, and they just got listed on exchanges now. So and then also another thing that you should keep in mind is that there's also futures available for Filecoin now. So there's a lot of players that are now looking to hedge Filecoin price as they hold it, let's say, on some exchanges, and they can't necessarily, let's say, get out of it or whatnot, right? So with the launch of the futures, we're seeing actually a huge backwardation right now for the December futures. So meaning that when backwardation happens is you have a price of December futures that's trading way below the spot price. So right now in the market, let's say, for example, just theoretically, if the spot market right now is showing $20 for Filecoin, then December futures are showing like $10, and that's backwardation. And that's shouldn't be the case, right? Because futures generally are priced at the premium because you're trading the future price, right? So, but because there's so much interest in terms of hedging Filecoin price in the futures markets, they short Filecoin so much that there is that backwardation, and now the futures price is actually way below the spot price where it's now. So, and then there's obviously crazy stuff with the funding going on with these futures, because when you have this backwardation, you have basically a funding rate, right? That we all know that you basically either pay or you accumulate based on backwardation or contango. So if the backwardation is in place, then basically those that go short, they end up paying the longs. So right now, I'm not sure what right now the rate is, but it was just recently at like 1,300% annually from FTX, where if you hold a long futures position, you'll be earning 1,300% annually on that rate, and that's paid out like, I don't know, on FTX I think every hour or so. So like there's a huge thing that's going on in the futures where the Filecoin gets absolutely wrecked by the futures because everybody's trying to hedge in and lock in the price because they've probably been up holding a lot of Filecoin from back in the day, and they can't dump it onto the market because of these inefficiencies, all this crazy stuff that's going on. So they're like, okay, cool, I'm just going to lock in the price in the futures, boom, dump my crazy short positions on it, lock in the price, create this backwardation that just shows you the interest of short sellers that are looking to get in. And then on the long end, nobody really wants to like get in and catch that side of things with all these inefficiencies.
I mean, apparently some people are just like absolutely like out of their fucking mind with, I think it ran to $116. Who is buying in knowing the entire situation and knowing what's happening with Filecoin, and just it blows my mind that there were even any buyers at that price. But I guess there's always another sucker.
That's the only way you can get it, right? So it's like,
why do you need it?
Well, the price is going up. Like, it's like it's the effect.
Price goes up.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like it's interesting. I mean, there could be two things. It could be obviously individuals, right, that are buying it, or it could be bots, right?
It could be bots. Well, turn those bots off because 68 billion valuation at $30, Dima.
Yes.
What's the valuation there at $117? It's crazy. Anyways, guys, I love that. I love that breakdown though. I hope you guys appreciated. RA bought in at 120. So perfect. I didn't even see a candle up that high, but
RA bot confirmed.
Yeah. We'll get to some of these other comments as well. The last bit we'll touch on Filecoin before we do get to those comments was to kind of break down a little bit more on what the situation with these miners are. Basically, I'm going to get a quote directly from one of the cloud kind of setups that had like a company that had set up infrastructure basically to start mining once the mainnet went live. It looks like he said all the miners have been off since the mainnet went live. This is not some sort of protest, but we have to shut them down because we really don't have the tokens as collateral to mine. There's also, I guess there was a vote or some type of governance that actually happened And it looks like based on some of the distribution that was initially set up, they're now changing to get more tokens in the hands of the miners so that they can then start their processes. So yeah, so that was big. The last part I want to get to, man, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Our man Jay's son was over here adding the SEC in relation to this Filecoin launch. It looks like Justin tweeted out, exit scam here, question mark, 1.5 million sub for 200 USD each, worth 300 million USD at the high. Let's not even talk about that. Now price is below 60 USD, 70% down, no lockup, no announcement to the community. How much do you sell? Added Juan Benet, Filecoin, and Vitalik, and the good old SEC enforcement at here. That's Jay's son doing the white hat for the community there, man. What do you think about that?
Dude, I don't know, man. Like that is so ridiculous. Like, when was the last time Justin's son announced that he's dropping like Tron, like, cashing out like holdings? Like, this stuff that like continues to happen. Obviously, there was no lockup. It's not a surprise, like, yeah, participants cashed out. Those that didn't cash out ended up hedging in the futures markets. Shocker. Like, why is this new? Like, this has been going on for a while. And out of all the people that would do this, Justin's son, really? Like, give me a break. Like, man, like, focus on your own, stuff.
I agree. I've got something that I want to pull up for RA here, but in the meantime, can you hit some of those comments?
Yeah. It's funny. RA mentioned that he bought at 120, sold at 30. So buy high, sell low. He's definitely watching Dimitri's desk. But let me see. What else is here?
I'm not. All right, this is for you, Ari. This is what I was pulling up. The American flag maybe is a little much, but I got taps playing for him.
Nice. Press F in chat. Pay respect.
F in chat to pay respects, guys. We got taps going. Unfortunate for Ari. Happens to us all.
Yeah.
Moment of silence, guys.
Is it really at the... Oh, yeah, it is at 30.
All right. Anyways, that does happen to us all. Congrats to everyone in the chat that didn't get wrecked. Looks like we got the Fs coming through. So Jay's son is talking about this stuff. It looks like we'll leave it off there. That's pretty much it for Filecoin, guys. Appreciate all the Fs in the chat. I know RA appreciates all of that. So yeah, definitely a good thing to keep an eye on. Someone mentioned Uniswap. We'll touch on that here in a second. We didn't have that on the dashboard. Oh man, we got a lot of Fs in chat. All right, you're feeling the love. Feeling the love. All right, guys, this is what we're going to do. All-time high is 52, as you know. For engaging in chat today and in the comment section there, you're going to get LADZ. I'm doing that distribution later today, I promise. I know I didn't get to it last week. I'm sorry. We'll set up a structure for that. But if we hit all-time high 52, you get 2x the amount. And then I guess we didn't announce this earlier, but we're dropping 1,000 LADZ to everyone that's in our Discord over there tomorrow, I believe, at around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard. So 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, if you are in the Discord tomorrow and we have your Roll wallet and admin knows it, we are going to be dropping LADZ to all of you guys, 1,000 LADZ, so that everyone can have access to the Citadel. Anyone that comes in afterwards, they're not going to get that drop. They're not going to be a LADZ tradesman. So there we go.
Yeah. I actually forgot about the Uniswap proposal thing. Definitely can get into that once we get into DeFi.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we got quick news, guys. We're gonna fly. We always say we're gonna fly through this, and we never do. So we're gonna try to fly through this. We've got the Stellar and USDC. Speaking of stable coins, Stellar looks like they added USDC to the chain. So it looks like, based on this announcement, it says, then this is directly from Circle, announcing Circle's USDC support for Stellar across its suite of payment infrastructure APIs. So it looks like Stellar and UDC is going to be Stellar capable, and that will be a boon for the USDC, at least on the Stellar ecosystem. So that's a big one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that's great. Obviously know that Stellar is pioneering in the cross-border payments,
Mm-hmm.
and adding a stable dollar that's USDC to it in terms of operations and conducting these cross-border payments it's a huge win for them.
Awesome, man. Well, DJ showing up. He said, hey, good lads. Good to see you in the chat, DJ. It looks like everybody's getting after it there. So appreciate everybody following along. So I haven't actually set this up. I know there were some guys that were in chat actually looking at the Circle app, but basically a tweet came through from my man's name is Martin Koppelman. And I'll read directly from the tweet here. After 7 years of dreaming about it, discussing it, dismissing it, adjusting it, and finally implementing it, Circle UBI, Universal Basic Income on the blockchain, or just better money, went live today. So basically, this app kind of took over the Twitter sphere, crypto Twitter, if you will. And it was like, how do I even explain this? It was definitely a viral marketing campaign because basically, in order to actually be approved for the app, you needed to have someone that was already approved for the app bring you in and bring you into the network. After that, what you could do is connect to different people to connect your network essentially, and you would get paid a certain amount of circles. So if we want to look at it here, it looks like this is on XDAI, the Ethereum sidechain. The protocol issues circles to all of its users each week. Upon sign up, you'll receive 100 circles. Then you'll receive about 14 circles each week. The value should inflate by 17 or 7% each day. It looks like you'll need to have 3 incoming trust connections. Basically, people were spamming crypto Twitter to try to get their colleagues to connect their account to one another. So it's an interesting play on just viral marketing. That's as much as I'm going to kind of get into it. I know some of you guys were taking part in this Circle app, a kind of craze. Definitely want to see. I think Ronan's talking about it now. I don't have much to say about it other than for the viral marketing aspect. I like the whole UBI aspect doesn't really click with me. We can go through his tweet thread and you guys can school us in chat, but it looks like a great way to get people to talk about your app. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I don't know if there was any I don't think there's any way to convert it, right? So Circle right now is you can't convert it to like fiat or whatever, right? Into ETH or other cryptos. It's like it kind of has no value. It's like a kind of point system, where it's like I wasn't clear about any goals that relate to UBI with the Circle, where it makes more sense what you explained, which is being used more as a marketing tool to get the word spread around, using just some token.
And it looks like based on that comment, like they did have the word get around, and it took out their servers. So it looks like we had a tweet from them saying, "We are a small team, totally thrilled, but also overwhelmed by the interest, working our way through support requests." And a lot of people had trouble signing up for this, trouble verifying that their account was ready to roll. So it is interesting. Maybe we can go through some of his tweets there. I don't know if you can pull it up on the dashboard and follow along. There were some interesting philosophical and kind of macro pieces there that he talked about. He said, what is Circle? 6 examples: a voluntary basic income scheme without the need of a state, fully decentralized money, a mutual credit system where credit lines are set by default to make credit fungible. That makes sense to me. If you can kind of set up different networks and reputations based on connecting those networks. Peer-to-peer form of money to make money and thus ultimately the economy more human-centric. Cryptocurrency that is minted only by human lifetime. The original Ripple idea combined with UBI. So a lot of buzzwords in here. I don't know. What do you take from it?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of buzzwords, and I like to judge these things based on the outcomes, right, that we see. So right now it's like the plan and it sounds all great, but we'll see what's going to come out of it. They're already struggling with the initial plan and even getting people signed up with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, from a process standpoint, I mean, I kind of see the argument that he's making at the end of it, but comparing anything to Bitcoin is tough. But the argument he makes is the first rule is simple. Soon after Bitcoin made people see that money outside of the state is possible and that potential design space for money is quite large, people came up with the idea like Bitcoin, but coins are distributed equally per person. it sounds great in theory, you know, like
Yeah.
you set up this process where people are connecting to each other, and then they almost have like a quote unquote like Bitcoin asset, and it's distributed not on like from a whale perspective where whales are able to kind of monopolize that. We're getting too far down the rabbit hole. Let us know what you think, though, guys. We haven't jumped into to Circle, but it definitely made its rounds in crypto Twitter. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, the other portion that I have here, it looks like we had this story come through over the weekend, but we touched on a similar story. So this is about Coinbase. Obviously, Coinbase and Brian Armstrong had that apolitical stance and post that went out to the public. It looks like 2 major executives leave Coinbase after that controversial stance. Now, it goes on later in the article to talk about how one of these might have just been leaving anyways. But they specifically talk about this man, John Russ. It looks like the global marketing head. But, you know, post that that blog and that stance on, no politics in the workplace. It looks like John Russ kind of came out and said, I'm leaving. I think 5% of the workforce is what, in total kind of left. It looks like the chief compliance officer, Jeff Horowitz, decided to leave the exchange, but although it reportedly had nothing to do with the new policy. So it's a little bit of a confusing headline, but you see major executives leaving based on the announcement we made, or the story we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's tough, man, to stay away from kind of politics at a workplace, especially in certain areas where, political talk is like very kind of like spreading around, like in areas like, California, San Francisco, and so on. So it's hard to stay away from it and keep the work environment, just kind of focused on the company's goal in general. So, and it seems like, some people can't work in that environment, which is okay, understandable. Yep. Then, then just move on. So I think this whole thing with the drama of Coinbase is kind of coming to the end, I think. And we can kind of move along. It's really something that's like, it's an example of a company dealing with it. And then, we'll see maybe if others will have a similar type of approach, right? Maybe others already had that same policy set up, but they haven't been publicized in terms of, people leaving or shuffling happening or policies going into effect. So it's tough, it's like, it's like religion, politics, and all that stuff. And it's like you get, too heavy into it. You can't have that in the workplace.
It's something's primal, man. It's something primal that, you think you can talk about it, but then literally 20 minutes later you're yelling at someone else.
Yeah.
And it's like, not saying that I do that, but I've seen it happen. So yeah, I mean, it's also funny to point out that in a world or in a workforce now where everyone's distributed across countries and things like that, or across, just not working necessarily from one location, you still deal with this in like really highly contested areas, like San Francisco, for example. Like if this happened, if their location wasn't in San Francisco, I wonder if they would have been this loud about taking an apolitical stance. It's just, obviously we know that there's a lot of politics brewing in that one location. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll get to some of these comments here, specifically on Circle. It looks like Ronan was saying he spent an hour trying to get approved. Danny was saying it sounds like a classic pyramid scheme. Kieran was trying to get verified. We got another Ponzi comment. So people are trying to see it. Crypto Pickle's talking about, actually, no, Brandon was saying going to need strong incentives to lock up that inflation if it ever is able to cash out. So that's a good point. If you have 7% inflation, what's driving value in the actual token itself? Not the Circle army. There's no army back in that.
Hope.
Yeah, exactly. Pickle's saying something about Block 1 issuing BTC. I think that's a rumor that's been around for a while. That would be big for the EOS ecosystem. And Paul Young is finally saying politicians have made things political that traditionally haven't been. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, you can touch on your quick news real quick. I'm gonna actually close my screen for a second. I'll be back in about 15 seconds. I need to get a charger. So
all right.
So
of course.
Go hit it.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to also give a shout out to who mentioned this about the Stellar. Oh yeah, DJ Wisdom. Yeah, IMF talking about Stellar and cross-border payments again today. That's interesting. I actually missed that webcast, but I was able to pull up the CoinDesk, piece on it that talks about the Stellar CEO, basically taking part of four-person discussion of private sector role in addressing shortcomings of the cross-border payments. And Stella has been obviously very involved in that sector, so I might go back and actually listen to that and see what they discussed on that panel specifically, because that's a very interesting subject for me in general, just cross-border payments and so on. So I think that might have been a very valuable, interesting discussion there. Anyway, Q is back, so let's hop into the rest of the quick news that we try to keep quick, but there's so much opinions and passion behind it that we end up discussing it. But anyway, so this one is going to be really quick though. CFTC Chairman on ETH, basically, there's a video of him basically saying how he's impressed by Ethereum and how he loves the innovation and all that stuff, which is like something interesting when you hear that from a CFTC chairman. But you have to also keep in mind that now that there's more entities that are regulated by CFTC that do work with Ethereum assets and other assets that are crypto related, you're probably going to get a little bit of good rhetoric from the CFTC and say, hey, listen, this stuff is all cool, is all good as long as everybody is under the compliance and everything like that. So they're going to be, they're obviously going to continue to regulate that space. But there's also, like I mentioned earlier, there are players that have been in traditional finance that have been trading commodities for some time, are setting up shops, or already set up shops where they're managing cryptocurrency side of things, like includes Ethereum and so on, right? So, as long as that's going to continue to happen, then CFTC is going to be like kind of beating that drum. Hey, listen, you guys are innovating and so on.
Yeah, this is interesting because pretty much the entirety of the comment section on this little tweet right here is basically people just calling out Bitcoin maxis and saying like 1,000 Bitcoin maxis cried out this day. And it is really interesting to see from like a regulatory perspective, people like just accepting that Ethereum's doing good work, right? It's a good time, I think, for Ethereum. You got ETH 2.0 kind of around the corner, maybe, who knows when ETH 2.0, but
they did say it's, ETH is not a security, right? So they did classify that. So regulators are kind of slowly saying, hey, listen, things are going to move forward and it seems legit, and they're excited for the innovation. They don't want to put down the innovation, right? So
yeah, I think just in our kind of community here and just basically in all the sectors that we kind of find ourselves in, it's so cool to see the development of Web3. Like that's that's primarily ETH based. Like there's a lot of others that are doing good work, but it just blows my mind that you can be this Bitcoin maximalist and be like, the only thing that's happening is Bitcoin right now. So this flies in the face, of that thought. You have the CFTC, chairman saying, I'm super impressed by ETH, which if you told me that 3 years ago, I'd be like, dude, absolutely not. Yeah. Mike was always on this channel with us, and he was like covering some of the news, and he actually retweeted somebody who was talking about ICOs. And I believe the context was the person was kind of bringing to light that there's actually a lot of products that have come out of ICOs. And that's kind of flies in the face of the normal thinking that ICOs were all of a scam. They're all scams. Yeah. And he said like, oh, it's only taken 3 years. That was basically Mike's comment, was saying like, it's only taken 3 years, but finally people are appreciating and seeing that it wasn't all scams. Like a lot of the products today that you see, you could even peruse CoinMarketCap, how many of those had an ICO and now are pushing out good products.
Yeah, and how many we worked with closely during that time.
Boom.
Too.
Yep.
Boom.
Get after it. All right, you got 2 more news stories before we get to discussion. Let's do it.
All right, great. Yeah, so the next one is the good old Grayscale. So this one came out basically I would say like maybe like a little bit more than a week ago, but I wanted to make sure we cover it because basically Grayscale reported a significant increase in terms of their quarterly for investments that we made into Grayscale fund, which is basically crossed 1 billion mark in Q3, which is a pretty good bump up from the previous quarter where they registered 906 million. So we're still seeing a pretty significant interest for the Grayscale product that they have, which is, involves Bitcoin Trust. They also released the Grayscale Litecoin Trust, which is really like really okay, fine, but it is what it is. If somebody wants to exposure to Litecoin, they can now have it through Litecoin Trust, which actually ended up bringing in quite a bit in terms of the Litecoin Trust. They ended up securing some funds there. But overall, it looks like Grayscale is pushing forward. There's still significant interest for their flagship Bitcoin Trust, the good GBTC. Also, it's interesting to note that the overall premiums actually have come down for their product, because we all know that there's a premium that's pretty ridiculous in terms of where the people are buying BTC through their trust and where BTC is trading right now. Although that premium has actually come down. And that's usually should be the case as the demand for the product picks up, the overall premium goes down. So Grayscale continues to, put out pretty good information in terms of, how they're attracting institutional investors, and that, we see that across multiple headlines where we constantly see like a certain company comes out and like, hey, listen, we actually allocated 1%, our portfolio, like Square. We have, others that are coming out that maybe allocate 1/3 of their market cap, like MicroStrategies, into Bitcoin. And all of these are becoming more and more popular, where it's interesting, where it gives proxies to people that traditionally trade just stocks to get exposure to crypto assets through these tools and products like Grayscale, for example, or even owning a stock that has a certain percentage of their portfolio in Bitcoin. That continues to happen. And the next one that kind of reinforces this is this whole rhetoric is also the Stone Ridge reveals 150 million Bitcoin investment as part of the $1 billion spinoff. So this one actually, Stone Ridge, actually, the story about it, if you guys are not aware, basically Stone Ridge manages many different assets. It's a $10 billion asset management company, and they actually had employees, internal people on the inside that were buying up Bitcoin as they were operating that fund, and it became like, it got to the certain moment where the team was owning a pretty substantial amount of Bitcoin, and they needed solutions to custody it and basically accommodate the demand from the team to hold Bitcoin, which they ended up spinning off a company which is called New York Digital Investment Group, and they basically established custody solutions where clients can now buy, hold, custody Bitcoin, through the spinoff. And they've seen, a lot of success in that area where, a lot of demand from institutional clients were coming in, and they were able to continue to build out that business. So that again shows you a traditional fund that has been operating for a while. It's not a small fund, $10 billion fund that actually, spun off a different kind of entity that was providing, crypto related services, and they hold crypto themselves, right? So we see that rhetoric more and more where fund managers traditional finance guys and entities that have been operating for a very long time are starting to be like, hey, listen, you know what? That whole idea about allocating that 1% or small portion towards this crypto is not that bad, considering how crazy stuff is right now, with the fiscal policies, monetary policies, and all that stuff, right? Not to go kind of on a rant, but the way things are looking from the Fed's perspective, we've tried the kind of the Fed stimulus, right, to stimulate the economy because of the global slowdown. But now we're turning to the fiscal policies to stimulate, which is what the Fed was talking about, which would be necessary as the next step. But the problem with that is that as you turn to the fiscal stimulus, then you end up having a higher fiscal debt in terms of GDP. So right now, if you look at it, the debt to GDP in terms of private sector is much higher, and that's kind of what you want to have. You want to have companies that hold the debt on their books and in proportion to the GDP. But if you have a fiscal debt that's rising, then that means that the people of US are basically holding that debt to the GDP, and that's when you kind of deviating from the private sector more. You get like this whole rhetoric about nationalization and all that stuff. So all this stuff is happening, right? And the private sector is seeing all this, and they don't see confidence in terms of unwinding this. And they're like, okay, listen, you know what? This kind of validates for me to probably allocate a little small portion just in case, just as a hedge, in case this continues to unwind. So.
Yeah, this is an interesting kind of sentiment that we've seen across even like the political landscape. I feel like may change as we see older individuals move out of the workforce of the political system. It's the monetary system too. The old fund managers that are in their 70s, moving and retiring, and now you have younger individuals, maybe even just more open to change and more open to kind of understanding new trends. That will be interesting to see as we see baby boomers move out of the system in general. So who's to say like a lot of these funds won't, as their older senior managers move out, what will they kind of look at it with fresh eyes? Dude, Bitcoin has so much bullish sentiment behind it with all these funds coming out saying we put 100 mil here, 100 mil there. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And then you have the retail guys that look at this and they're like, oh, that's it, 100x buy, let's go. I'm going to be a millionaire, and then it's like they're out of the market within a small fluctuation in price. So yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah, interesting time. All right, guys, we made it through quick news in about 30 minutes. So that's our like new record on like, doing that in a small amount of time. Believe it or not, we got 32 people in the chat. Listen up. 52 is the all-time high. If we hit 53, guys, you get the 2x lots. Let's hit all-time highs, man. Let people know. Turn on that second monitor. Turn on the phone. Let us know, what we should be talking about while we make it into discussion here. So we've got the discussion portion, probably the best portion of the episode. The chat is kind of slowing down, man. I want to see more people in the chat. What's going on this week with you guys in crypto? We have a lot of lads in here. We know you guys are in the chat, so hit it up, man. It's always better when you guys are chatting. So happy Monday to everybody out there, and we will get into discussion and the biggest news of the past week. Hit it, OKEx.
OKEx, yeah. So the OKEx drama that happened more basically. For those guys that are not aware, one of the founders and the guy who holds one of the private keys to the OKEx basically went kind of missing for a second, but then more information came out where he was with the police working on some kind of investigation. But there seems to be no clear details in terms of like what the hell is going on. Right, it seems like the OKEx guys are saying, hey, we don't have contact with him. He's working with the police in some of this investigation, and the funds are safe, but withdrawals are going to be suspended. So just keep it cool, And it's like, wait a minute, what? And excuse me. And it's interesting because there's many theories behind of like why this is occurring. OKEx obviously is a huge exchange, and if the authorities identified a specific bad actor that has been doing let's say certain things in terms of money laundering through their platform, and they might even have the funds still on the platform, then the problem is if once the news gets released, it's that person that's a bad actor be like, oh, okay, I'm out of this exchange, boom, I'm out, right? I just withdraw all my funds and spread it everywhere else so you can't catch me. So I think that's the reason why the withdrawals are limited and suspended right now, is because they're going through this investigation in order to identify maybe that person and prevent the funds that are maybe illicit funds, to lock them in. But they maybe are struggling to identify the scope of funds that this bad actor has, right? So you're trying to roll through all this, all these wallets and all this stuff on OKEx, and to identify how much of that bad actor's assets are, located on OKEx in which accounts and so on. So that takes obviously a lot of time. And they're maybe exploring some strategies in terms of, how to fix this. But this is all speculation, obviously, because, from the OKEx side, they're not delivering those details. It's just they have, everybody has to wait and see what's going to come out of this on the other side. But it's been already some time, right? And it's like, when are we going to see more news about it? So this is the counterparty risk that is picking up for OKEx specifically. And that's something, we've talked about a little bit on the desk when I was doing it on Friday, where, the reason why we don't necessarily see Bitcoin selling off on this news is because you're not forced to sell your holdings on OKEx in order to move it. If the counterparty risk increases for on OKEx and the traders and the people that use that platform, they're just going to calculate that risk as being high, and they're going to reallocate that portfolio into a different exchange, where in this case, you don't have to sell, your assets. You can just move it to an exchange that has less counterparty risk.
Yeah, that being said, maybe a couple of years ago, and it might just be an indicator of how bullish everyone is on Bitcoin right now. If this news came out, 2-3 years ago, when you saw like India bans crypto, send Bitcoin down 5%, like with some stupid like that. Korea had a lot of those issues. This would have moved the market more than it did a couple years ago. And I think on the heels also of BitMEX, you got to think about that as well. It's like you have BitMEX, you have OKEx. There was something else that happened last week, and you're just like, God damn, dude, like the market's going to tank. And it's just like, yeah, just a 2% here, just 1% here. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that BitMEX thing is for sure. It seems like, like you've seen more and more exchanges come, getting pressured by either law enforcement or regulators nowadays, and that's having minimal effects on BTC, which is interesting. It's like when it happens, it's first of all, you have traditional folks that are getting into BTC through all these entities, funds, and so on. Right? There's so many products that are available to minimize volatility and increase liquidity of the underlying asset. So with all those things in place, even having something major like BitMEX and OKEx, the reaction to the downside is very muted. So that's very obviously very interesting to observe as we see all these things kind of happening. One thing that was not muted is the OKB token. That thing just continued
tanked.
to move. Yeah, tanked quite a bit, which is explainable. One thing that would be interesting to see is how OKEx is going to come out on the other side. We're seeing more exchanges that are competitors are coming out like saying, hey, listen, we have no problem, we work great with regulators, everybody loves us, come to us, and all that stuff. So they smell the blood in the water, right? The sharks are around, they're circling, and they're trying to take the business away from OKEx. There's rumors even that CZ is coordinating this, but that's a little bit too much, right? Let's be a little bit more realistic. But it'll be interesting to see how they're going to come out, how much business they're going to be able to retain, because OKEx is no joke, right? It's a huge market.
Yeah, I know a lot of the decentralization maxis who we all kind of in our own way, our decentralization maxis, is just how far down the spectrum. They were talking about how this couldn't happen with Uniswap. And the DEXs essentially took this time. Not only the centralized exchange founders, but the DEXs took this time to kind of, come out against what was happening with the funds being frozen and things like that. So I think Uniswap did see a little bit price increase of just people expecting the price to pump based on it being a DEX and this FUD coming in with centralized exchanges. So, I mean, we'll see going forward what happens with those funds. They haven't, I don't believe, made an announcement on the withdrawal process yet.
No, yeah, they still haven't made an announcement. And it just in general, I mean, it's there's two sides of what is right? Because like, if you're looking at OKEx, and let's say there's this huge scammer that scammed a lot of people out of money, right? And he's parked his tokens on OKEx, or maybe some terrorist financing, right? Something that is parked on or the funds for terrorist financing is parked on OKEx. Then it's like, do you really want to talk about decentralization, or would you have the authorities, kind of a place for authorities to take control of that and prevent it from happening, even if it means to lock in all the withdrawals and suspend them for some time, right? In that case, you'd say, hey, listen, I would want to go with centralized exchange because there's some repercussion that can, go around. But then there's the other side, right, of the guys that are decentralized, right? They're saying, hey, listen, come to Uniswap. It's all decentralized. It's all good. You can do whatever you want, right? But then in that case, it's like, okay, would you want, those organizations to get away with those things, and not have like kind of a backstop, right?
Typically, you'll find people answer this question depending on where are they the victim, or are they kind of viewing it from the outside?
Exactly.
The victim usually wants it to be handled, and I think that's the case here. So we got 35 people in the chat. We're here talking OKEx, so drop your kind of discussion pieces on here. Mike Scott had an interesting theory. He said basically that Bitcoin, maybe we are seeing effects of Bitcoin, or the news on Bitcoin, basically saying that maybe Bitcoin would be at 14 or 15K and just skyrocketing without all this news kind of bringing it down. So
yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's definitely possible. We'll get into like ETH a little bit later. I have some interesting ideas in regards to the staking stuff that's like it's gonna happen there, and the effects that it can have on on the actual spot markets of ETH. But overall, it's like the main thing that's the issue right now is the velocity of money, the velocity of movement of crypto. So one big exchange is basically stopping that, has an effect on stopping some of the velocity of crypto moving around because they can't withdraw funds. So and that's something that's important to keep in mind.
So prediction here, what happens when OKEx lifts the withdrawal deposit button there?
I think this should provide
not investment advice.
Yeah, I think I think they're gonna provide clarity on what exactly happened that will kind of dictate, justify their, why they suspend the withdrawals, why they took these measures, and so on. But it's interesting how there's not much details that are being brought out right now. I think they might be waiting and still, working on how to deliver that. But I mean, it's like, I don't think it's going to be like a super huge bump to like 20,000 because this happened, or a super crazy dump because like there was something serious where OKEx is going to have to like restructure their business based on like new practices and so on. So like, I think the overall reactions will be muted in general. There's bigger things that are driving markets right now than, some of the FUD that's going on. Yeah,
I think in the article and I don't know if you pointed this out or not, because you did a great job kind of like breaking down the whole depth of the story. But BitMEX was allowing withdrawals and deposits because they had that multi-sig set up. And I believe OKEx said they had a multi-sig set up as well, but that they were freezing withdrawals and deposits because of the actual like AML situation. Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of the full story there, guys. I'll get to some of the comments here as well. It looks like Stacy's got to go into work because the servers are on fire. So good luck getting those back up. We've got some Crow talk, the crypto.com. I don't know what that's coming from. Kieran saying he's not commenting because he's building an OP code based virtual machine to validate transactions. Phenomenal. Kieran is by far like probably one of the smartest lads that we have in the system right now. So definitely shout out to you there. As Modi's saying, Crypto Motors auction for gold and silver sedan cars live on OpenSea. Loadmaster's watching Ivan on Tech, which I can't get behind, but I can just say, okay. Ari's doing Avastars, and that's about it. Loadmaster's saying he's got a big week ahead. So appreciate you guys commenting in the chat when we pinged you guys earlier before that story.
Yeah, that CRO is not doing well. I was talking about it on a desk. Looks like it dropped off even more. Looks like it's down like 24% since the last time I talked about it on desk. Hopefully I didn't FUD it too much. But yeah, I'm not sure what fundamental mistakes they're having in the crypto.com. That's something you guys could share in chat, Bruno. But looks like the token price is reflected in that. So yeah, looks like Sierra went from 18% staking at highest tier to 6%. People dumped, went back up to 12%, and people still dumped. Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's see what's going on now.
Interesting. All right, Scott's doing errands, so he couldn't tell me that the column was off there for the discussion piece. But we're going to hit this other discussion piece. Dimitri touched on it really quick, but we will get into it here. That was the LIDO staking pool getting announced. So we obviously have the ETH 2.0 kind of phase 0 staking that's launching here in the next couple, I believe, week now. So basically, guys, what's happening here is we're the Ethereum network transitioning to 2.0 is now going to allow stakers and at the rate of 32 ETH per kind of node there, you're able to stake the ETH. And the interesting part here is that is going to be locked, and the rewards you receive that will kind of continue to collectively build up won't be unlocked until phase, I believe, 1 or phase 2, but until mainnet goes live, I believe is the case. So you're locking in a week, and when ETH 2.0 launches, you get your 32 ETH and whatever rewards you get for staking. That's the situation.
Like in like 2 to 3 years.
Well, that's not what the ETH Foundation would say, right? The ETH Foundation saying ETH 2.0 next year.
No, that's, we already know that's not going to be true. But yeah, the fact that you're locking up ETH and it's basically kind of, useless for that time where you can't do anything with it is a tough sell, because the stuff that's going on in DeFi right now, right? Nobody wants to have that dead ETH, right? Sitting like, if you're sitting right now, the market is so sophisticated that when you're sitting on your positions, let's say you're a long-term ETH holder or BTC holder, well, you want to deploy that to earn interest, right? And lending and borrowing markets and so on, right? Having just the naked short position in that one single asset is not as cool anymore, especially with the DeFi stuff. So as I was reading this article and I was like thinking about it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. So this is going to be locked for this long and all this stuff. I can already see like some kind of solutions come out where, you could use that locked ETH as a collateral to maybe secure a loan that will give you a way to utilize that ETH outside, even if it's locked, you can still use that as a collateral to participate in some other things, like securing a loan and so on, which, essentially goes into that with this staking pool for LIDO. Where you basically can get this what is it called, BETH, yeah, BETH against the ETH that you have locked up, and you can use BETH to basically participate in this DeFi, staking, all that stuff. So this way you're like, well, I'm staking for Ethereum, that basically makes my Ethereum useless for like that period of time, but I can use that as a collateral to mint some BETH, and I can participate in some of the staking that's going on in DeFi and utilization of ETH and just in general. So
it's an interesting situation here with ETH 2.0, because as we launch, is there not a smart contract risk to staking ETH? Like right now, when it's in phase 0 and you're like staking 32 ETH, and you don't go through a pool like this, you're staking to the contract. I guess you have the Ethereum Foundation behind it, so you're technically saying like, I trust that the Ethereum Foundation is going to get it done. So maybe I'm just thinking out loud here. A lot of times in
Yeah.
discussion, we're just kind of thinking about the negative effects, but there's a lot. There's definitely, you don't see that ETH, but
I think Mike Scott mentioned here, in terms of ETH rewards going to be high. Yeah, that's initially for sure. I think the rewards are going to be high in order for people to, for them to compensate for the time that they're going to be missing out on the market having this ETH locked in. So that's for sure. The interesting stuff is like kind of what you pointed out in terms of having a peg, right? With
I'll bring that up.
with BETH and ETH, because technically, if you think about it, you can use ETH as a collateral that's staked, but if there's any type of settlement that needs to happen, you cannot actually go in and take that ETH, right? You cannot physically.
It's not a two-way.
Yeah, it's not two-way. It's locked, right? So there is going to be disparity in terms of the peg, and there's going to be volatility there. So the peg is going to be relying on basically arbitrage bots, but we know that there's inefficiencies there. And overall, what's going to happen is that the overall peg is going to be completed upon the ETH being unlocked at the end of when the lock period stops for ETH. So eventually that peg will work at the end, but in the meantime, as you have BETH being minted and ETH being locked up, the volatility between the peg is going to be there. The idea is that as we come closer to unlocking the ETH, that peg should get closer and closer, because ETH is going to be unlocked, and then you can have that second piece of the leg. So the idea is interesting, and like I said, I was reading this article and I was thinking about how, okay, there's got to be solutions where you just use that ETH as a collateral. It's locked in. Yes, it can be redeemed until X amount of time, but there is value there, right? It's not like it's worthless. Like it is real collateral that you have there, and there's going to be products that's going to be basing on when the ETH is going to be unlocked. That's when the appreciation of that collateral is going to be, should there be like a margin call or whatnot for a loan. So
there's also another thing that we're not talking about here, is that the 32 is prices out a lot of people that are interested in staking. So if you can actually get into this pool at a lower amount than 32 ETH, then you can take part in ETH staking, essentially. So that's what these staking pools will allow. Because again, based on the way that the process is set up now, you're not going to be able to take part in staking ETH if you do not have a multiple of 32.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I probably can see more and more pools come out that have lesser barrier, right? If you can get your friends that put in like 5 ETH each, or like whatever the number is, and then you can just set it up that way.
What we need to do is have like a guess within the LADZ community on how many ETH we think is going to be locked up. Like what total value locked is going to be locked up in staking ETH, like in that contract, essentially. I would love to see that. It's you feel like it would be a lot, right?
Yeah, that should be a pretty good amount. Yeah.
Well, it should instantly probably be the most total value locked on any chain in any DeFi protocol.
I guess you could say so. But I don't think initially it would be like that. Maybe as we get closer to more clarity from the ETH Foundation on when it's going to actually, I guess release 2.0 and like have that unlocked, because it really relies on a clear message on when it's going to happen, so people can price in the risk of staking for X amount of time. And they can use tools like hedging and hedge out some of the risk of staking and having the ETH useless for X amount of time. So the guidance from the ETH Foundation is going to be absolutely crucial in terms of the time frame for this to work. If there's going to be unclarity in terms of the time frame for this, then I think that's going to undermine the risk, like undermine the risk overall of like allocating how much I'm going to allocate of ETH into the staking. Even though if the rewards are great, sophisticated investors now like to hedge their positions when they're earning rewards and so on. So
yeah, Bruno, I think we're talking about the project you're mentioning now. I think there was another comment that came through called Rocket Pool. That is another pool that's being launched for this staking. I just see that like with this launch of ETH 2.0 and the staking that's going to take place, I don't see how it isn't going to be the most total value locked in all of DeFi. I like the Ethereum Foundation will probably be involved here and use their ETH to be staking into the ecosystem. So I don't know if they do that with any of their ETH now and any other DeFi protocols. It'll be interesting to see what it comes out at, though. So we got some other comments coming through that if you want to touch on those. Let me see if I can't find the actual date that locking begins. I don't know if we have that date. Maybe that's something the lads can find out. But definitely a really cool protocol here. That's going to be an interesting one to follow going forward. Some of the other things that we can think about here, how much ETH is locked up in Celsius and BlockFi, and how much that might move if the ETH staking is attractive. Because I think BlockFi is offering 4.5 if I'm not mistaken. Celsius is offering probably a little bit more.
I think what those players would do is they would actually participate in locking their ETH, and then they would provide an interest to the client and take the amount that they earn from interest on staking and take the spread between the two. So I think those players like Mike Scott mentioned here will be interesting to see how long it takes exchanges to roll out their own pools, reduced percentage rewards, and so on.
Yeah, so you're telling me that Celsius, BlockFi, and all the exchanges are going to throw up their own pools, and you don't think it's going to be the most total value locked in crypto?
No, I mean not like right off the gate, out of the gate.
Oh yeah,
because so for those players to do that, they need to again have that timeline, right? Because they need to be able to figure out how they're going to manage the risk on their end by locking in all this ETH. If they're locking all this ETH and then suddenly the clients want to withdraw ETH, they're going to be like, I kind of have it locked here. You know what I'm saying? Like they need to be able to have like a contingency plan for this. And clarity from, in terms of the timeline is going to be very, very important.
Do we know how much is locked up in like Tezos, for example, as far as like staking? That would be an interesting one to kind of compare it to.
I know that 80% or something like that is locked.
So you would just take the 80% of the market cap at this point, circulating market cap?
I guess. Yeah.
All right. Well, interesting comments coming through. Anchor looks like it's another one.
64.7% looks like.
I don't have the locking time frame. I do not have that. I would like if any of the lads can go out and find that and then report back. That would be amazing. That's part of the value of these podcasts these shows. I wouldn't call it a podcast. More of a show that you guys can come in and we can all kind of source information together. So
1.38 billion on Tezos.
Based on DeFi Pulse, that would put it at number 3. So Uniswap has 2.73, Maker has 1.98, and then Wrapped BTC is 1.23.
That's crazy, dude. 95.4% supply locked with estimated current value of 1.38 billion Tezos. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. That signals to me more not an engaged community, although maybe I get lit up for this, not an engaged community, but a lack of token holder like distribution. That's just me. That's just how I feel about it. But anyways, we've got some comments coming through. Bruno is saying a comment that I agree with as well. It's just too risky. ETH ecosystem is too big. So many projects to invest. I think what he's trying to say there is like there's probably opportunities elsewhere that are not as risky. You don't have the lockup. You don't have all these things. But if you can get into a pool, you can earn the rewards that you would with ETH, and then also be able to use that BETH and invest in projects maybe.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting how that's gonna turn out, given the fact that like you cannot access that ETH to recover the collateral.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
that's
like
the point you made earlier.
Yeah, and it's like if you let's say get the BETH and then like okay, I'm just gonna use that to provide liquidity on some place, right? And then like you have BETH and then some pair, and then let's say the liquidity pool gets drained of BETH, then you have BETH that gives you a claim to ETH that's locked. You know, you can't take.
Yeah, well,
that
yeah.
ETH.
What happens if you lose the BETH? You can't
That's what I'm
reclaim.
saying.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, interesting.
So maybe down the road you'll get ETH that when it's unlocked is going to be probably based on the smart contract. But like, you know, it's
So print. These are you guys are coming through with the comments. I love these, man. It looks like Paul Young saying, "If this is a show, you'll dance for us." Mike Scott saying it will become the equivalent of a T-bill in the ETH ecosystem. Interesting comment there. Could be a good idea, but can get wrecked as well. Low risk, low rewards once mature. Agreed with that. And Bruno saying, so printing ETH. Yeah, interesting, man. The process, I guess, would be you high risk to get wrecked in this scenario, but you stake ETH into this pool, you get BETH, you exchange it for wrapped ETH, and then now you're able to go in and like participate in all that, because nothing's going to be tied to BETH. You know, like you're not going to be able to participate in Aave. Oh, maybe it will. Maybe they'll roll it out. But you take the BETH, you wrap it, you turn it into wrapped ETH, and then you can explore the DeFi ecosystem still. Just don't get wrecked.
That's crazy. It's just like, it's mind blowing how like, you know, how complex it can get very fast.
Yeah.
But, you know, DeFi hasn't blown up yet, even though, you know, I've been talking about.
You have.
Yeah, I've been talking about it, you know, even though.
You were DeFi bear.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, I don't want to see the sector blow up, but all the things that like I'm seeing in terms of like high fees and all that stuff, I can see, you know, if volatility picks up, then it can blow up. Good thing is that we have enough actually products and so on to, you know, slow down the volatility, so it hasn't blown up. So I'm actually impressed. I'm like, I want to see DeFi succeed, right? And a lot of things that are happening in terms of volatility recently, you know, DeFi space is taking it, you know, good. So.
Yeah. Ola's having a great comment that I want you to touch on, which is kind of what we were coming up against, but didn't hit on it. What if users make bad decisions on using the collateral? So let's take a hypothetical. I do the process that I talked about where I turn it into wrapped ETH. I lose all of my money just from bad trades or what have you. What happens to the ETH that's locked in that contract? Is that my personal ETH, or is it like one big pool? Do you see what I'm getting at? Like, what happens to the ETH that's locked in that contract that I then now can't put back in?
Yeah.
BETH.
So if you wreck and lose your wrapped ETH
by BETH,
you would lose BETH to another person.
But then does the BETH, is it specific for a contract, or is it like one gigantic honeypot pool?
I don't know. That's a good question. But you understand, right? If you lose BETH, then somebody else has you BETH that has a claim to your tokens, right? So I think it is a big pot. It's just a big pot of like, all right, there's so much ETH, and that's how it kind of works.
I was thinking like it would be like losing your keys to Bitcoin. It's just like that 32 ETH never gets touched ever again.
No.
Okay, got it. Great discussions, guys. I appreciate the comments, man. I think that was the best portion of the episode so far, and again, that's the reason why. So,
yeah, absolutely. We love hearing the opinion from you guys. This is kind of what drives our excitement to interact with you guys and you sharing your opinions as we share ours. So definitely keep on rolling that chat.
Crypto Stacy is getting he's easily the biggest degen in all of LADZ. Would you let's have a top 3 vote? I don't even know what the top 3.
Should we have a degen of the week?
Yeah, there you go. I like that. Degen of the week next week, guys. Stacy's gonna be the perennial title holder. So Stacy, I'm up there somewhere. Magnus is in there somewhere. We'll get degens of the week going. But he's shilling. It looks like hope, staking NFTs to gain hope.
Yeah.
Or am I the only crazy person here? Interesting question. Okay. Locking ETH that begins next week. That's Paul. Okay. All right. Let's get to the latter half of the episode, guys. I'm going to skip ETH because we just literally touched on it. We're going to move down to EOS here. And we're going
It looks like LADZ are loving degen of the week.
Yeah. I knew you guys would. We're all degens, really. We're going to touch on EOS, guys, here. We're going to touch on DeFi. We're going to touch on social tokens and then NFTs. That's going to be the remainder of the episode. So real quick, you're going to touch on this AP Everpedia partnership here where they're using, you go into it. Let's hit EOS.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, EOS has been, making great news lately, especially with the Google stuff. But the recent one is actually related more to the election day. Associated Press AP collaborates with Everpedia to publish election day race call data. And that's very interesting because, they've been doing this data since like 1948. It's essentially the information in terms of kind of determining who's going to win the elections. It's interesting, they picked EOS, and everybody knows Everpedia, especially those guys that are in EOS. And this is kind of their way to work with the blockchain to post data that's, provides more transparency and so on, because they've been talking about, AP has been exploring the idea of publishing blockchain data in terms of the elections, but they haven't really materialized it. And it looks like they're starting to do that with Everpedia. And right now, especially given where the elections are and given the circumstances of how people are voting, right, through mail, through in person, it is going to be an interesting dynamic in terms of collecting that data and then kind of providing that data to the public in a transparent way, where you see, who's leading, who's not leading, which states are, voting for who. Because if you have part of it that's vote by mail, part of it that's vote in person, those are two different time frames in terms of calculating votes and delivering that data. So I think they're seeing an opportunity to provide more transparency, especially when you have politicians that talk about the legitimacy of voting by mail and all that stuff. I think AP is taking a step to kind of provide the legitimacy of the data that it's going to be on a blockchain through Everpedia, and it's going to be recorded there. So this way, there's going to be no funny business there.
Yeah, speaking of EOS for kind of enterprise level businesses and companies and different firms, it looks like EOS, and I'm going to touch on this really quick because I think it does have some implications. EOS just released, and Block One just released EOS IO for businesses. So basically what they're going to do here is lay out their different services for enterprise level companies to come in and use the EOS public blockchain as well as a private blockchain. They specifically touched on, I believe, 4 different portions here. I'm going to see if I can't get that. But most of it kind of goes around support, white glove service, and consulting. So we've got EOS.io Premier Technical Support. It looks like you're going to be able to, get in touch with Block One and their technical support anytime if you use this business service. You have the blockchain as a service here, so they've kind of like laid out their automation and operations. So most of this revolves around getting larger firms to use the private or public EOS.io tech, and then having services for them to use as support. You see the consulting here. You see EOS.io training and certification. That's less of a white glove service and more of kind of an open, I believe they called it like a training camp for different maybe junior developers. So really good stuff that's coming out of the EOS ecosystem from like kind of a Block One perspective, first of all, but also just kind of onboarding bigger enterprises to use EOS.io tech. I think we've moved in a good direction with this. Also, the one key thing, I think Pete put a lot of this stuff together. Like they had videos, training cap videos. Pete Key worked with us at ICO Alert, and now he's at Block One. I think he had a hand in creating a lot of this.
Yeah, I think we interviewed him on our channel one time.
When he was working with Liquid Apps.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, that guy's great. And yeah, it's funny, like enterprise solutions, is like a meme, right?
It is.
It's been talked about for so long, and everybody's just like, yeah, we're creating this platform for enterprise solutions, but nobody actually came to fruition. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing like, some of this stuff is starting to kind of happen. Or in crypto, we're just like, all right, ICO finished, got to partner with Google the next week, man. Or like you got to set up enterprises solutions for like this market share that you talked about in the white paper in the next 3 months, because these tokens need to rise in value. So like but it's nice to see how like now EOS is starting to implement their tech in different sectors when it comes to reporting data from news, right, sectors, or the infrastructure with the Google and all that stuff. So
they made a lot of good strides here. I want to touch on that point you just made though, because it was a debate, at least at ICO Alert, when you'd have these public companies or these ICO companies that were raising funds, and they were having this public token that essentially made it like many other like public-facing platforms that were raising through ICO, where you had the Telegram group, you had the Twitter, the marketing stuff, you had all of this like news and media around it, and you have this public token that would be in the hands of retail. But they were like, yeah, the only thing we offer is enterprise services. It's like, how do you do both of those? Like you have this community, quote unquote, and you're offering enterprise services for big tech companies. Like those don't mesh well, and we talked about that at ICO Alert a lot, because you're trying to keep the community calm over here, that's holding the token, the retail community, and it's like, what services do you offer them? None. You're just doing enterprise solutions. It was an interesting.
So wait, let me get this straight. So all these people that bought the token to fund the project, now the project is doing private level enterprise solutions, and
nothing for them. They're like,
what do you mean, bro? I invested in your business, and you're telling me that you're doing some private level stuff. Where's the money go that you make? So it's like there's always that big discussion that we had where it's like, how does that trickle down into the
value for the holder?
Token holders. Yep. Yeah, token for the holders.
And there's no utility at the end of the day. Like you have this service, this blockchain for different services for enterprise, and it's like, what is the utility for retail to hold this? And then they'll throw out governance, and it'll be like, oh, they can govern the protocol. It's like, well, fuck off. So, but no, the EOS is big enough where you have both of these going on at the same time, right? You see that you have like both retail facing and what they're doing now with EOS.io Business, which is creating infrastructure for maybe private blockchains to call to the public blockchain. But EOS is big enough. There's a lot of projects that are just focused on infrastructure for enterprise, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, you don't need to have a public token for this. So
yeah, and it's crazy because like, even back in the day when we were like working with some of the companies or startups that got funded by Block One in order to deploy, let's say, some kind of,
we'll touch on this here in a second. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll touch on this here in a second. So the last bit of good news here, because again, let me harp on this. EOS and Block One have been making awesome moves. They've been making awesome moves. We saw the initial kind of bounce after the Google partnership news. Haven't seen as much since, but this is awesome. I'm going to read directly from the EOS.io Business blog post here. In an effort to make EOS.io more accessible and adaptable for enterprises, we're introducing a suite of services: EOS.io Premier Technical Support, EOS.io Boss, and EOS.io Consulting. We're also launching EOS.io Training and Certification, a virtual campus for learning. So that's pretty much the good news there. We had some tough news from the community. The community decided this was the week they were going to kind of get after Block One and Brendan and Dan. And this is something EOS needs to find itself out of. I think we're moving away from it, at least before last week. I thought that. But we had some guys come out. This was everything EOS. This was Wrecked Kid. This was Rude Mudcrab. These were some influencers within the EOS community coming out and really taking a swing at EOS VC, which admittedly needs to be like revamped. You saw a couple of things here, but primarily it came out of this tweet from Wrecked Kid. He said, the first project listed on EOS VC is an Ethereum token, which you can use to purchase a course to Solidity. And he obviously tweets at Brendan. Everything EOS comes out and says the same thing, saying that back in the day they were going to deploy 1 billion to EOS projects. Not much of that has happened. So basically it's a shot at EOS VC in that they haven't deployed their capital correctly. There's a lot of different tweets here that go into some of the other projects on EOS VC that are pretty much dead now, And it revolves primarily around, let's get EOSVC on the right path and let's start funding projects within EOS. I don't know if that was the correct way to go about it, just like publicly, just like being like, screw you guys. I think that's essentially what happened here. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. By the way, I kind of miss what's that, rude crab?
Rude Mud Crab. Love that
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, he's I think he popped in a couple times before into our community. But yeah, it's kind of like what I've mentioned earlier. It's, we worked with this, we kind of, I guess we would say worked, but we were talking with this one project that got funded by Block One that was gonna build some tech for an existing company that's like LinkedIn, so like a staffing company, right? So like a LinkedIn platform that would have some kind of integration that, from EOS tech that would make it more efficient. So basically, at the end of the day, what turned out happening is that Block One basically invested in that like LinkedIn platform rather than putting it onto like the EOS blockchain or have anything to do with the EOS network. So it seems like that was the theme where Block One was deploying funds into like these emerging businesses that are not related to EOS at all, or have maybe plans to do it maybe later on, but they were like investing in businesses that are showing good record and they needed more money to scale, and just the regular VC type of stuff, right? It's like if you invest money, you make more money, boom, that's it. But it's like, it has nothing to do with EOS, and that's something that I feel like was a theme that continued to happen because they were spending a lot of money, but they were investing in certain companies that wouldn't relate to EOS. The hopes was that, all right, if the foundation makes money from these ventures, then they would either buy the token themselves, or or like build something that's gonna actually affect the token price.
Yeah, and I know we're getting like super bearish on the news here, and I think it's important to understand that we've been covering EOS for a long time. So we've been promoting EOS for a long time from like just an ecosystem perspective. So we're not trying to FUD or do anything here, and I think that's always something that we need to, I don't think it's something we always need to say, but it's just something we need to reinforce. We have to look at what's bad going on here, and maybe through reporting on it and talking about it and the community going through it, maybe we can find an answer, and that's where I'm like kind of on the fence. Like, this seems like a really big slap in the face to Brendan and Dan to come out like this, but maybe it gets them to address the issue. I don't know. Another point that
it's probably not the first time they get smashed,
yeah. The other thing to point out here is that the worker proposal system that would have been the way the community funded projects got burned. So there wasn't any way the only funding we saw was literally from the EOSVC, who's made some good ones. I think they were early in IQ and Everpedia. I think they did Mythical Games as well, which is going to launch Blankos. So they hit on a couple here. They're not going to have 100% hit rate. That being said, some of these projects look kind of like shit and they need to be updated. So, interesting stuff. Automated, the DeFi on EOS is starting to pick up as well. I think that's been sustainable. It wasn't like a flash in the pan. So that's been good. Strong case for NFTs needing use cases. I think I think EOS is growing, but this was just something that happened this week that we need to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. All
right.
All right. Looks like we made our way to the beautiful DeFi section. Now there's obviously a lot of things that are going on. As I look at the DeFi space, there's a lot of like noise stuff that's like, I could talk about it, but it's like, I feel like it doesn't really deserve that much spotlight, or at least just yet. So if I miss some stuff, you guys can, drop in chat and then kind of say your opinion. It's also hard to keep up with all the DeFi stuff that's going on because of also there's so much, noise that's, a lot of crap that's not that, relevant. But the big things that I wanted to cover is basically coming from synthetics. So Kane, go ahead and take your shot.
Take a shot.
Synthetics has released and launched this new platform, which is called Cuenta. Yeah. I don't know if that's kind of like related to in some other language what it means, but anyway, the Cuenta platform, and it looks like Q pieced out, but I'll explain it to you guys. The Cuenta platform is a decentralized exchange offering derivatives trading with infinite liquidity, they say, is now live. So it's basically a dApp that's built on Synthetics protocol, and that's something that's, when we were talking to Synthetics back in the day, and we're talking to Kane, in terms of them doing a perpetual swap platform that would offer the ability for traders to, trade on a decentralized BitMEX, basically. This looks like, what he was kind of talking about with this Cuenta, because basically what they're doing is you're going to have the ability to trade on the platform that's already live with infinite liquidity, as they say, and zero slippage. Now, that's a huge thing, right? If you have liquidity that's abundant, the slippage is very minimized. And that's when you have big players that are coming in and they're looking at this, and they look at the, sophisticated traders, they look at the quality of execution, the quality of liquidity, right? If you go into some exchange and you look into put on a trade and you look at the slippage is like 3 to 5%, and you're just like, what the hell? I'm going to be out of here, So that's what they're talking about. Now, the key thing about here in terms of infinite liquidity, it has to do with the mechanism of how overall Synthetics is set up. So you obviously have to mint SUSD, and part of it, how it works is that the people that mint SUSD, they contribute to the overall pool of Synthetics in terms of the liquidity. So the holders of synths is basically the ones that provide liquidity, and they have such abundance of liquidity in order, that can have them deploy something like this where it has minimal liquidity issues and minimal slippage. It has to do also a lot in terms of on this platform, you're not going to see order books. It's not peer-to-peer. It's not like you have traders that are on one side and the other. It's actually just peer to contract, which means that you have obviously one trader, right, that's looking to execute a buy position, let's say. Then you have the contract that is based off the liquidity pool on Synthetics. So it's a whole pool basically that provides liquidity. So that's why it's peer to contract rather than peer to peer, where it's like if the trader wants to buy, there's a trader that wants to sell. Both of those books are matched and they have the transaction. This is a little bit different, which is very interesting. It gets into the idea of I would want to pick the brain of kind of like the functionality of it, how it's set up on the back end, because how much of that is being offset in the back end, because you basically have the liquidity pool of Synthetics becoming a dealer. They're basically, they're becoming a dealing desk. For those guys that trade Forex, they know dealer takes the other side all the time. There's abundant liquidity. You can buy and sell at any time. The dealer will be there to take the other side of your trade. So I think that is the kind of decentralized way of making the dealer, rather than having the peer-to-peer to match traders. You have the dealer that has abundant liquidity that's willing to take the other side and minimize the slippage. So I think this is super exciting. And I want to, I'm probably going to be talking to Kane or to Synthetics guys to find out more about it. And, I'll continue to deliver the insights in terms of the functionality of it and how they're being able to, pull this off, because this sounds like a pretty exciting platform that they've released.
Yeah, it looks like Crypto Stacy is a lad Spartan here. He's involved in that ecosystem as we cross, I believe, 40 now. But how does that differ from the AMMs in like a Uniswap pool?
So yeah, just
from
really quick,
TLDR, but go ahead.
So TLDR is Uniswap pool is peer to peer, right?
Got it.
There's the peer-to-peer transaction that happens with the liquidity providers. Mm-hmm. This is a contract, so it's
he said magic.
Yeah, exactly, magic. Peer to contract, a smart contract, which is using synthetics as overall collateral, or like the liquidity pool.
Got it.
So it's interesting experimentum, but I like how Stacy voted against that dumb name. But yeah, man, if you got any insights on that, it says biggest liquidity pool for based is SUSD based. Just saying. Okay, so counterparty will be basically hedge, keeping us from y'all's insane alpha. So yeah, I'll probably need to look into it more and just dig deeper into what they exactly going to do, how they're going to carry this out. Because the more and more I look at it, it more looks like in FX where you have dealers that take the, basically the other side of it. And that's why they're able to provide low slippage, abundant liquidity, and non-peer-to-peer kind of trade.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I want to get a public service announcement out about kind of the value of the LADZ community right now. Some people like just get it. Some people it takes time to kind of put together like what the value of the community and the LADZ token and all this stuff is. But this is kind of a call to action for all the DeFi guys, because what we're seeing right now is an abundance of maybe NFT LADZ kind of coming in. And what's been able to happen is the ability to create different channels based on what the sector is doing at that point. So we just created the Alien Worlds channel in Discord. We just created the Metaverse Builders channel in Discord, and that's a value that you don't get in other communities that are specific one project focused. We have as a community the ability to kind of organize around different projects in our Discord, or I guess organize in our Discord around different projects. And that's what we want to do with DeFi as well. I know it's kind of cooled off a little bit, but if you're interested in DeFi, get the discussion going in those different channels. Dimitri's going to be heading up a lot of that, but we got specifically a couple lads as well that are going to be in there kind of organizing around trying to figure out what the next move is in different projects, in the same way that the NFT section has Alien Worlds, where we're going to move on that as a group. Like, that's such a cool thing to be able to do within the community. So I just want to give that public service announcement out. If you guys didn't see that kind of forming in our community, that's the value. We can move from project to project and do really cool things as a group.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those guys that have connection, let's say, to new platforms that are coming out in DeFi, or for example, this one, the synthetics, if you guys would like us to interview them and sit down with them and have them on the channel, feel free to make introductions. Feel free to talk to us about this. We'll be happy to sit down with them and have them on our channel, ask them questions on how this whole thing is working, so you can see that you can get the information straight from the insiders as we kind of deep dive into it. So
100%. Crypto Stacy's saying DGen subgroup, so that DGen subgroup will be there after this episode here. So looks like we got 40 of you guys in the chat. Dimitri's going to finish up with DeFi here, and then we've got social tokens and NFTs here. So let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing here for DeFi is just going to be some news about Wi-Fi. So I know guys that have been holding Wi-Fi bags have been kind of disappointed lately with all this stuff that's going on. Obviously the overall DeFi sector is going through correction. There's, some issues with the founder that's doing some phony stuff with Eminence. We're just
don't talk about Andre like that, okay?
Yeah, Andre is having a rough day, and then there's yield farming overall is dropping off dramatically because of the interest rates. So that all of those things kind of impacting Wi-Fi, but here's your silver lining, Polychain. If you guys remember them, Polychain has been around for some time. They have decided to accumulate quite a bit of Wi-Fi. So they there was information that came out basically identifying Polychain capital address, ETH address, that was reported to accumulate Wi-Fi, which is interesting. And it's 329 Wi-Fi that they got, which is, what are we trading at right now? Let's say 14K.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and find that as well.
Let's say 14K. So it's about 4 or 5 million position, which is also interesting because you have then on the other side, you have Sam that's sitting on the short position, and their short position is about three something mil. So it's it's pretty interesting, but you also don't really know what kind of stuff they're doing, and what's Sam doing with that 3 million short. For somebody who's like so sophisticated, it's hard for me to say that this guy would just open up a naked short position and hope for the price depreciation, and that's how he would make his money. I think it's overall part of a bigger plan. With that being said, again, also for the polychain capital guys, it might be also part of a bigger picture as well as they initiate this buy position on Wi-Fi. So when you read these news of big positions that have been established, you have to keep in mind you can't just focus and zero in on that and say, hey, listen, this thing is going to move because these guys bought. You don't understand what is part of their portfolio and how they overall see the portfolio and how they manage the risk there. Their portfolio is not solely made of Wi-Fi. Let's be real. There's other things. When Warren Buffett buys, like airlines, it doesn't mean that he's all in on airlines and that's the only piece of his portfolio. He probably has other pieces of portfolio. So if the airlines fail, then the other piece is going to go much higher. So, you got to keep in mind that this piece of news, just take it with a grain of salt. That even though they are picking up some investment there, there's a big picture there in terms of how they manage their portfolio.
Yeah, it looks like Stacy's talking about Alameda being on the short side. He's had an interesting last month as well with FTX and everything that they're doing there. So I don't know. What do you make about Alameda's recent kind of I guess rise in influencer status?
I mean, yeah, it's. It's kind of like I could. We saw that coming, basically. This, even though it's like there's some hate in terms of that short position, right? And that's just people not understanding the big picture, and they're quick at pulling the trigger in terms of, all right, this guy's shorting, we're just gonna talk crap about him, right? Mm-hmm. We're just gonna hate him for that, right? And we're just gonna talk about how he's stupid or whatnot, right? But really, they don't understand that it's part of a bigger picture. What if he's hedging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Simply is hedging. What if they're hedging some exposure? What if they're overexposed on one end, right? Let's say they're overexposed in the other sectors of DeFi, and in order to hedge that overexposure that they have on other sectors of DeFi, they just pick Wi-Fi as a short,
mm-hmm.
To hedge some of that risk. He's not going to disclose your full strategy and portfolio and justify every single trade to the community just so he can get approval. And even if he does that, the community is not going to be able to even comprehend that because there's so many, people that are just retail and that are just see, okay, is he buying or is he selling,
Mm-hmm.
But it's you don't understand that a simple action of buying and selling of a single asset in a capital group is just a very tiny piece.
There's a lot going on.
Big picture,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think as Stacey said, I respect SBF. I just don't trust him. He got wrapped up in that. He got wrapped up in that sushi swap stuff too, which I think kind of maybe was a little bit of a hit to the community, especially how we saw it turn out. And we'll see how it goes, how he does going forward. I think he's definitely a value add to the community. But anyways, guys, we got about 40 of you in the chat. All-time high is 52. We've got about 15 minutes left. This is going to be our longest episode by far. But we've got about 15 minutes. If we hit 52, you get more LADs today. You get 2 times what you would have gotten. Again, J-Lo saying, morning, I'm late again. Good morning.
Good evening. You get the LADs from Crypto Santa.
There you go.
Not from the bear.
Yeah, bear has no LADs. All right, guys, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to move the column over here to social tokens, and we're going to finish up with social tokens really quick touch, and then we'll hit on NFTs, which we'll spend a little bit more time on. Just in general, guys, this has been something that we've added more recently, this social token industry kind of discussion. After talking with Cooper, and obviously LADZ is a social token, although it's not traded currently. We will be touching more and more on social tokens as we go forward because we have that kind of adjacent, or even not even adjacent, just direct exposure to the social token market. So we at Layer 1 and at LADZ, we believe in social tokens, so that's something we're going to do. From an investor standpoint, I think Coop said something interesting to us. I don't know if it was pre-call or on the episode. He said a lot about getting into these kind of fringe assets and how that can have outsized returns for investors, because the bigger, larger investors that are kind of building the infrastructure after the kind of early adopters get in, the outsized returns are there to be had. Not investment advice, obviously, but we see a lot of potential in social tokens. I think there's a lot of like fundamental value in a lot of social tokens as well. They immediately have a utility, and that's something that can be expounded upon to, I believe, just infinity. You could create. I mean, we're in LADZ calls, like layer one team calls, and we get caught on these calls because we spend an hour talking about the utility of LADZ, and like it's literally exponential. So a lot of things make investing in social tokens, in the ecosystem, in specific tokens, in people, in the communities, a lot of it makes it interesting, and that's why we've added it to the column here. So we're, as you can tell, super interested in social tokens, and we'll keep you updated. This story is going to come from Rack. It's a Grammy Award-winning artist who was on, I believe, I don't think it was Spotify. It was SoundCloud for a little bit, and he got to start there, became a Grammy Award-winning artist. This comes from our Zora. So Zora, much like Roll, so a lot of you guys have been interacting with Roll. Zora is another platform that allows kind of artists to create their own digital currency and be able to kind of have value capture within whatever community they're creating. Obviously, Rack being an artist, his community is going to be centered around music and the ability to kind of interact together at that level. So we had the Rack token introduced. He's using it as a token permission access within his Discord, something that you've seen in LADZ, but he's also introducing a ton of others. A lot of this is just like talking about social tokens as a whole, so I'll get to the main spots. So he announced Rack distribution to some of his, I believe, early supporters, so people who bought merch, people who were supporting him in his Patreon, people who were in his Twitch, so you can kind of see the idea with what he's going.
OnlyFans.
Yeah. Well, that you should create a bear token for those. So we've got, moving forward, we're going to be distributing 5,000 Rack a month across all Patreon subscribers, 100,000 Rack for tape redemptions on Zora, and one tape redemption has 1,000 Rack reward. So he released these tapes on October 1st, or I believe a little bit prior, but the redemptions were open on October 1st. Basically, these tapes have an interesting utility. You bought them as NFTs, and you were able to redeem them, or what they got access to was you were able to burn them to actually acquire his album. So the only people who had access to these audio tapes were people who physically bought these tapes. Which I thought was an interesting utility, and that discussion, like I said, can go on forever, but here we go. He says, earlier this year I partnered with Zora to work on a project called Tape, a limited cassette tape of my last album, Boy, with only 100 units available for purchase. With Tape, one token can be redeemed for physical one tape shipped anywhere in the world. So you can kind of see this played out as eventually, if he gets this large enough, he could release, original music that is only accessible through the use of an NFT. So you kind of see the play there. Obviously, he was talking about being able, if you do have a tape, you could redeem that for Rack token, which I believe 1,000. I think he said one tape would get you 1,000 Rack. Rack is trading at $1.30 at this point, so $1,300, which not bad. So just this is a big release, something to keep your eye on, which is this Rack token and how he builds his community. Much like LADZ, you can likely earn by being in his community, much like Whale. That's the beauty of these social tokens. If you get involved in that community, you earn these tokens. That in Rack's case can be tradable and buy, sell, utilized, all these different things. What do you make of this, man? I know I've been grandstanding about social tokens for 15 minutes.
No, I mean, yeah, it was, while you were talking about this, it's interesting. I've been trying to look up the liquidity pool for Rack. It's quite low. It's like $5,000 worth of liquidity, and it's 80% Rack and 20% WETH. Like, that's why if you go on CoinGecko, you'll see that the last time the price updated was 4 hours ago. It's highly liquid.
So kind of break that down. We obviously have some updates coming from layer one, and as it becomes the LADs, like break this down from a social token perspective. Like what's the importance of liquidity, and why do we need or why do social tokens need liquidity?
Yeah.
Other
So
than the basic answer, but go ahead.
yeah, so the reason why you need sufficient liquidity is because of the quality of execution if you want to acquire those tokens, right? So kind of what we talked about synthetics, right? With their abundance of liquidity, the reason why they're pushing the abundance of liquidity because of the quality of execution. So for example, if the if the overall liquidity is only 5,000 available at $5,000 in liquidity, then if you're trying to buy $1,000 worth of it, then you're going to significantly impact the price of that asset, and you're also going to get slipped by a significant amount, about like 25% on your entry. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to get in and automatically be the guy who paid the most for this token, like
Mm-hmm.
and who knows if like there'll be another guy who's going to pay even more. But liquidity issue is huge when it comes to these social tokens, because if there's no way to acquire these tokens reasonably, then then it's going to undermine the overall like kind of the velocity of that token moving around in the system. So liquidity is absolutely important. If you can't buy and sell this token,
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to redeem it and do all these things that you would want to do right normally with $5,000 in liquidity available? That's not much.
Yeah, and that's
right.
what
You mentioned right, what is it, 1,000 tokens, right?
you would get 1,000 rack for one tape token.
Right. Yeah. So then if you wanted to sell that 1,000 rack, which would be like you mentioned about like what, $1,800 or something, right? That is like a significant portion of available liquidity at the moment already.
Yeah, that's definitely a priority. Dimitri's kind of headed up that project, which is trying to figure out the best, I guess, requirements for what we want to do with LADs going forward. So that's 100% a priority for us as well. He could do a lot of things to incentivize, putting in liquidity, which you guys will see in our community as well. There's definitely not only being OnlyFans. So Dimitri might, roll up an OnlyFans to see if we can provide LADs liquidity. All right. We're getting down the rabbit hole here. I love the comments that are coming through. Shout out to the LADs. Scott saying LADs. Asmodi saying LADs. So if we can get a, do we want to get a hashtag or a money sign LADs? Which one do we want here? Let's see if we can get some.
The money sign.
Yeah, let's do a money sign LADs. Let's see if we can't get you guys posting about that. I'll pick one person to kind of drop an extra 100 LADs to this kind of group. I'm not bringing out the wheel. No wheel today. But based on this rack, as we see the comments come through, it looks like he's saying moving forward, he's going to have tokenized ad space on his Twitch channel, discounts on merchandise, access to unique crypto artwork, exclusive to tape redeemers. So a lot of cool things. Guys, we have the Discord there. Everybody needs to get in Discord. There is a section for Layer 1 improvement proposals. If you guys have a cool idea for a utility for LADs, drop it in there, man. Drop it in there. So, all right, we see the LADs coming through. No wheel today, fellas. Someone's going to get lucky, though. The last bit I will talk about with social tokens is it looks like this platform, Zora, the one that we just talked about that's kind of hosting Rack, raised $2 million and was led by a venture firm, Kindred Ventures. So Ethereum-based marketplace Zora raised $2 million seed funding, led by venture capital Kindred Ventures, according to a report by TechCrunch. According to this report, additional investors include, it looks like Coinbase Ventures and a bunch of a number of different kind of individuals there. So it's good to see this social token marketplace being or I guess ecosystem in general being built out. That's just showing you where we're headed. I don't think you could make me less bullish or any more bullish on social tokens. I almost fucked that up, but go ahead.
No, that sector is heating up for sure. Especially with the NFTs heating up in general. Social tokens are heating up as well. And we'll see, how that sector is going to do. Obviously, there's a lot of, people that are taking some break from the DeFi space. So some of that might trickle in.
Yeah, I think Stacy just came through on the Discord and asked where you trade DAD token. I believe DAD token is traded on DeFi Box, not on Nudex. So correct me if I'm wrong. But all those lads that are coming through, we appreciate you guys so much. You guys, I mean, to stay here the whole 2 hours is amazing. So yeah, shout out to you guys. I almost got emotional there, then had to stop myself. So NFTs, guys, we moved on to NFTs. Looks like a Batman, rare Batman NFT was sold for about $200,000. This was work by Trevor Jones and Jose Delbo, which are like big traditional artists. So not even in the realm of crypto artists. These were traditional artists that came in, and it was bought up on MakersPlace for $200K essentially. This was, I believe, it was Max Stealth. So this guy Max Stealth here was able to purchase this kind of Batman art. I don't know if that's the right Twitter handle, but really cool to see. I mean, that's a shit ton of ETH that was just purchased or was just used to purchase this Batman NFT art. Really cool to see this kind of NFT art section and sector continue to grow.
Damn. Lord Masters Rock is saying Atari just this minute announced the sale of their wax-based famous classic video games early November.
Interesting.
Coming through with breaking news.
So Jose Delbo, I believe Jose Delbo has been drawing different figures like this. Guys, help me out because I don't know that much about and it's something that I lack is my knowledge of the NFT art scene. Like, I know Jose Delbo and I know the other artists associated with this have drawn different comic book characters in the past, but this one was sold for $200K. Obviously, like you say, at all times, volatility and valuations and these big, I guess you say volatility drives interest, correct?
Right.
That's a quote.
It's also interesting. I saw a headline somewhere where it talks about how museums and I guess museums are selling a lot of art pieces now, more than ever, which is interesting. If you think about, is it because people are trying to maybe hide the capital or lock it in so they don't, have to give that capital away, or they actually like the art, So I thought that was pretty interesting to see how the overall sales have picked up in traditional arts sector.
Yeah, and we just launched that artist series. Like I said, Ronan's heading that up. So I'm gonna be and it's not because it's like a self-fulfilling thing for me. I'm gonna be a watcher of the NFT art series because I want to learn more about the NFT art community and just sector in general. So definitely good to see. The more. It's good to see it not be a wash trade either, like verifiably not a wash trade. We've seen, CryptoKitties, a couple other NFTs where you're just like, who's paying $100K for this? Like, it could easily be just some random wallet that the team created. So really cool to see an art piece of that caliber be sold, and we're on our way to $1 million. Like, when we're gonna get to $1 million piece here shortly, very shortly. So really cool to see. I've got a couple more here. Avagachi, for those that are degens into the Ghost token. It looks like mainnet's getting started here. It looks like staking is going to go live for the Avagachi token that is Ghost. Now, they haven't kind of laid out exactly the time period. I think they said 72 hours. It looks like they had an audit as well, but they haven't laid out, other than the previous post on the Ghost staking, they haven't actually announced what's going to happen when they go live here. So let's take a look at this previous Ghost staking. So it looks like you're able to stake your Ghost. There was a question that came in earlier as well on whether you need to KYC. If I had to guess, if I had to guess, I would say that KYC needs to happen in order to take part in their platform. It's unfortunate, like super unfortunate, actually. I can't overstate how unfortunate that is. But the fact that it's going live, I think people have been waiting for this platform for a little while. So what do I earn? It looks like earn Ghost Staked will earn, or one Ghost Staked will earn you 1 friends per 24 hours on the Covin/mainnet. It looks like they'll be announcing layer 2 pools in the beginning. And then friends, it looks like, will be the in-game currency of what you can do with the mainnet. So just like meme, where you're staking meme to get pineapples, same thing. You're staking Ghost, you're getting friends, and then you're able to, do things within that mainnet or that protocol.
Wow, what a name. Like, how many friends you got?
Yeah, there you go. Not a lot.
Not a
lot, apparently. So that was just announced via Avagachi. Let's see if I can pull that up so that you guys can see the full announcement really quick before we get into the last bits of news. It looks like they're saying the audit is complete. There was no exploits found. Ghost staking live within 72 hours. And that was all found in this community update that you can find in our description. So I'm following the Ghost protocol pretty closely. I own Ghost just for clarity's sake. It'll be interesting to see where that platform goes. And their team is awesome. They understand community roles and how to level up and all this stuff very, very, very well. So, all right, we've got 2 more guys. As you can see, I'm fading here quickly. Like we've been on this for 2 hours, so give me some pump up here. But we've got a bunch of big. Other than that Batman NFT art that was sold from Trevor Jones, we had another big purchase. This is close to our heart and our parcel. This is going to be in Sandbox, and this is straight from Sebastian Bourget, who heads up that project. It looks like there was a record-breaking sale in the Sandbox, a 6x6. So I believe 3 times bigger than our Sandbox parcel that you can see there. It looks like if it's not blocked up, you can probably see that layer 1 parcel right there. This parcel here, which I believe it's not 3 times, it's 4 times larger, but still attached to the Atari Sandbox parcel there. It was acquired for $76,000.
Not bad.
Buffalo saying he can see his house. Yeah, Buffalo's house, I believe, is right there. That'll be fun to see what he does with that parcel. But it's good to see these large purchases, man. I love your quote that you always say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it is volatility drives interest. Yeah. So I love that quote. The more that this can happen with the amounts that are being kind of displayed all over Twitter, the more people will say, "Whoa, I think there's something going on here." So,
yeah, absolutely. And we are close to Atari, as you guys can see. It looks like Paul noticed that. So, yep, we're in there.
Yeah, we are in there, and I don't know if we could be any more bullish on the Sandbox. There's going to be a lot of things that we're doing with the Sandbox that will be very apparent here shortly. But if everything goes well, lads are going to be living in the Sandbox. That's awesome. That's as much as we're going to say. And one of the things I saw as well, it looks like based on the parcels, because they're obviously blocked up into little blocks or separated into little blocks, you'll be able to see outside of your parcel. That was a cool little tidbit that I heard about. So we'll be able to see Atari and whatever the hell is going on.
But you can't enter it, or like...
You can enter it, but the problem that you would run into, that I'm glad that they said you can see the next parcel, is like in Minecraft you can't, I believe, see to the next one. So it's like your box that you're living in. So if they open that up and you're able to see the next parcel, it opens up the world a little bit.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, cool stuff. All right, so the last piece of news here, I'm not going to touch on it too much. What I want, if Loadmaster is here, I don't know, it looks like he still is here. He just talked Buffalo Land, yay. In Discord, in LADZ Citadel, so if you have 1,000 LADs, you're able to access this. Loadmaster is heading up what would you call a mission? I don't know, we haven't even really named it, but he's basically loading up a group, and it's already live, so you can see it in the LADZ Citadel now, of Alien Worlds. Alien Worlds held its collectible card sale a little bit ago. I believe it was last week. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So I've got the Land on Alien Worlds here, and it looks like, based on what's happening here, and I'm not going to touch on it too much, but these NFT collectibles are going to be usable inside actually of an actual game. So you're going to be able to kind of take part. I haven't really looked into this. It's been the busiest week of my life by far. But as you can see, there's NFTs. There's a fungible token that's going to represent what's going on in this metaverse, much like the Sand token probably is in Sandbox. You have NFTs. You have planets. That's an interesting thing. So there are 6 planets. Each has its own elected government. Each planet receives a daily Trillium payout, which the planet's government decides how to allocate. That's the key factor. Loadmaster came on here. Guys, I need to... I'm getting it up on Discord. I need to mute it. But anyways, guys, this planet here, that's the specific piece. It looks like Loadmaster's going to start up that group, and he's going to give us all the information necessary for LADZ to take over one of these planets.
That would be awesome. That's some exciting stuff.
So this is going to be kind of our first foray as a LADZ community. Other than the takeover we had, I thought we did a pretty good job of the meme event. But we did get to see like the LADZ in action there. But this is going to be, I think, a little bit more coordinated. Loadmaster is going to head this up. So head over to the LADZ Citadel right now and check that out. And he'll kind of lead up with, I think, with Buffalo too. I don't know who exactly was hopping on this, but Loadmaster is going to be doing point on this, and it'll be interesting to get all of the information here. But what did you make of that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That sounds awesome. I'm excited. We're going to have a Layer 1 planet.
We'll see. We'll see what Loadmaster has on deck for us. But it would be great to kind of take over a planet there. I wonder is there any PvP action? That's
That's
what me and Dean
I'll
want to
be
know.
interested in. Yeah. You know, so do we get to like throw out somebody into the space? You know, like like Among Us or something.
We need to be able to throw someone out an airlock.
Yeah.
All right, guys. As you can see, we're like, oh God, what are we in?
Oh, we're
2 hours and 30 minutes in, guys.
Oh my God, yeah, that's the longest episode. But you know, I knew it was going to be one of the longest episodes because just by the info that we had as we were building out the dashboard, I knew this was going to be, you know, a good one and a long one.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, there's so many news in crypto. It's just like it's hard to keep it under, you know, like 2 hours, especially with all this action going on. You guys are providing, you know, interesting opinions, and we talk about, you know, your opinions and interact with chat. Like all of this stuff is just like amazing. So I know Q is gearing up for the Cowboys game. So good luck to his team. Who are they going to lose to?
We are going to lose by a lot to the Cardinals tonight. So definitely, we have some comments coming in. It looks like they are saying there's PvP. R is saying cheers for the live stream, Q and Dima. Looks like Crypto Buffalo saying I vote for Phasia. He's sus. That's an interesting. That's an interesting.
Yeah, Phasia is always going to be sus, man, in my book.
Oh, we were talking about Among Us. I thought you were throwing out some shade there.
Oh, no,
Okay.
Among Us, yeah.
All right, so marathon episode, great work, chat. Manuel's coming in after the episode. Manuel, we've been here for 2.5 hours, man. What's going on?
Give him a TLDR what he missed.
Right? Yeah, let's break it down. All right, here we go. Good morning, good evening, good night.
Yeah.
Looks like Andy McDonald is saying, great episode. Thanks for all the info. Andy, get into our Discord group, our Telegram group, so we can get you some LADZ. And Ari pulled a fast one on us today.
I know.
For the record, I did not buy Filecoin, but cheers for the Fs and the fanfare.
Got played by a lad.
Yep, a little bit. So that's about it, guys. Again, marathon episode. So far, sorry for fading late here. Looks like we're headed off. So Dima's gonna kind of send us out here. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
Tomorrow, Dimitri's desk, as always, at 5 p.m. Eastern. So catch me there. We're gonna talk about the markets, talking about the recent price action BTC. And if you know, for those traders guys that want to join me, you know, 5 p.m. Eastern is when I'm going to host it. But since we're wrapping up this episode today, you know what I'm going to say already. Till next time.
Till next time.